So the first thing I'm going to do is set my camera up so that when I want to show off miniatures, you can actually see what I'm talking about. Right there, you can see it's focusing on my Vallejo model color, Negro. That's right, black. Yeah, I think that's a little bit better. So I've got this. I don't know what this would be. In Star Frontiers, I guess this would be like an assault scout or something. Let's get it to focus in. Or maybe you could just use it as a fighter and don't worry about the scale so much. Heavy fighter. It's a pretty cool little craft. Now, this one that I'm working on, this battleship. Look at this thing. I'll have to tilt it on its side so you can even. I mean, there's a lot of like the guns and the launch bays on the side and everything, but in like Nighthawks, which is the Star Frontiers war game for space, I'm thinking this would classify really as just a battleship, just because it has about the same mass as a battleship. Um, so I'll have to do the engines and everything and start going over it and picking out details eventually. But one of the things I need to do, and this is an easy job for me to do, is these guys right here. For those of you who don't know, that is a Sathar cruiser, right? So, I mean, the piping and everything on the outside should be a different color, maybe like a bright red, since they love red. And they kind of got the cockpit on the front with a window. Remember, these ships are done up like more like a building standing up than like, a boat. So also, they tend to keep the engines away from the hull because the engines produce quite a bit of radiation. So these nodules here, these are weapons. This thing's got, weapons all over it. And I have, it's also got torpedo tubes on the front. You can just barely make out. And I have a few of these. And the main thing I have a problem with them is the bases need to be painted black. So like here's a frigate, I think. A couple more cruisers. These are light cruisers, I believe. These are all metal. So all original, these guys. I do have some 3D printed ones I've done, which scale up wonderfully. But yeah, these are all metals, which means you gotta be careful with them because you don't want to snap a metal part off. But yeah, so yeah, it looks like we've got 3 frigates or destroyers. I don't know. I'd have to look at my book, and 2 uh, cruisers, possibly medium cruisers. You see this one here? Yeah, the nacelle or incel or however you call it, got a little bit bent. That's a problem with these old soft metal things. So this part of the painting, let me do something real quick. No, that's not how I do it. Thought it was how I did it, but no. Boop, 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 boop. So let's cancel this. And let's go to here. This might be the thing. Yeah, this is the thing. Boom. Maybe like this. Did it work? So supposedly it worked. So I was going to add a secondary camera, but it supposedly worked, but I don't see it. Let me go up here. Oh, there I am, but I'm not. Okay, so there I am. Except I haven't combed my hair. Let's do that. That way you can kind of see me, but it's more about the ships. So as you saw in the very beginning, my big container of Vallejo Black. Yeah?
Just so you know, I did not realize it because I was just listening, but you're loud enough that you pick up on my computer.
I am very sorry, baby. I'm very sorry.
I mean, the good news is I'm off the meeting. I'm just kind of making you aware. I would say the volume is like something. Just keep working on it.
All right. Apparently, I'm being loud. And I need to keep working on it. So, anyway. It's just a thing. Ain't nothing but a G thing, baby. Too loped out. It's going crazy. Yeah. Okay, so I'm looking in here because I've got some things I need to look at. Move these Sathar ships aside. Sathar. But you could use them as anything, right? Here's a human light cruiser that I did. And I actually went all out. Like I traced every line, and the weapons aren't highly detailed on these, but I painted them red because I thought that was cool. Painted the actual engines red because I thought that was cool. I really like the way that guy came out. Now, unfortunately, because these guys are metal, looking around there, I just found another frigate or destroyer, whatever. Unfortunately, because these guys are metal, you end up with cases like that, where the incel broke right off the engine, whatever. And that sucks. You know what I mean? Because then you got to try to clean it up and re-glue it and everything like that. And that is one of the reasons I will go on the record and say that the 3D prints I've done have been superior. Because when I 3D print, say, a Sathar battleship, right? The engines are printed with the body, and they just don't break off. You know what I mean? But because these are, Sathar Battlecruiser. Well, I've got Sathar cruisers, and these are Sathar battleships, I think. Again, I would have to dig out my Nighthawks box set and double check. So it looks like that's the incel that goes there, or the nacelle. Or is it this one? It's this way. Come on. Yeah, it's definitely not this one. This one's way not the thing. But anyway, so that is the issue with these is, granted, I have not been respecting these as much as I should. I've just been storing them in an old tackle box. And so if you do that, I mean, you get what you get. You know what I mean? Things break when you just store shit in an old box and rattle it around and don't take care of it, etc. See, like here, this is a UPF battleship, a human battleship, metal, so I won't be cutting any of this stuff off. I only modified the 3D printed ones I've done, and even this one, you can see that engine popped off. These engines will pop off. You know, it's like, stop it, but they do it anyway. Whereas the one that I've shown you multiple times that I 3D printed, those engines will never pop off because they were printed as part of the actual battleship. And there's just no way that, you know, short of breaking the shit out of the miniature, that those engines are ever popping off of this thing, right? And because it's a 3D print, you can see where I actually added, you know, guns instead of the kind of sloppy, not really 100% sure what they're supposed to be. Now, this guy needs a lot of detail work and dry brushing, obviously, but yeah. So, and the thing is, the scale is dead on. See? You know, I just put another one directly behind it, and they're exactly dead on. So, if you have a 3D printer and you ever decide for some reason that you need a mess of Star Frontier ships, you can get them on Drive-Thru-RPG. They have a miniatures page, and a lot of them are pay what you want or whatever, you know. So, you know, don't be too worried about it. They don't cost. They're not going to cost you an arm and a leg. You know, a lot of them are free. You know, and so that allows you to go ahead and you'll be able to print out whatever you need for your Space Knight games or Star Knight games or whatever it is. This game, Star Frontiers, hey, Crafting Gamer, what is up, too? I mean, I saw you, but I was busy with talking. But Star Frontiers has remained one of the games that I would always consider running, which might be like weird since it's such an old game. But I've always considered Star Frontiers rules-wise worked just fine. There, you know, and I use the advanced rules and I use the Nighthawk rules. So if a character somehow manages to get their technician skill up to 6, they can start taking pilot skills and stuff like that. It also has aliens, which I generally don't like in sci-fi. But for whatever reason, I like the Star Frontiers aliens. I really do. You know, like the Dralosites are probably my favorite. You know, giant talking beanbag that, you know, runs around doing whatever. I mean, I already asked the people at my game table what they would play in Star Frontiers, and I got a good mix, you know, like I got a bunch of humans. I got one person who wanted to play a Rusk that was a science PSA. Yeah, you know what? I was watching what was that show that was on HBO or whatever, and it had the Strigoi in it? And it turned out that the Strigoi were basically like worms. The strain. Thank you, baby. And I thought What if you gave Sathar that ability? You know what I mean? Like if Sathar captured humans, they could basically infect them with the strain, which would turn them into, vampiric monsters, right? Now, I never did it because we never played Star Frontiers, but I thought that would be one hell of a way to make the Sathar especially creepy. And then on top of that, if you wanted to go further, you could say that once the worm hit a certain level of growth inside the human, the worm would burst out of the human vampiric whatever and grow up to be a Sathar. Yeah, exactly. Exactly like that. Like the Sathar infect a human, and then all of a sudden, the human's doing all this weird shit, don't even know why they're doing all the weird shit. And then over time, they end up having a baby Sathar exit their body. And I mean, you can do the alien thing where the Sathar busts out of them, but I would do the more realistic thing in that, the Sathar leaves through one of their bodily orifices. And then we got to decide whether the human survives the issue or not. I mean, did they survive incubating a Sathar creature or not? And does the creature still have some sort of mind control over them? I mean, these are things, to think about. So, got to head into town. Are you going to Kentucky or are you in Kentucky, Hungar? And I appreciate you hopping in and giving the thumbs up and showing some love to your brother. It's a big thing. Sorry your character wasn't quite as involved in the scenario last night. That's kind of a wild scenario since like 3 of the players never really had a chance to do anything. But I mean, that's the way the game goes, because soon there's going to be a whole scenario where the nobles are going to be the stars of the scenario. And as you can see, this guy here lost to always until the end of time, my brother. That's right. And as I always say when I log on to Dune, blessed be the maker, blessed be his coming and going, blessed be his water. May he keep the world free for his people. That's paraphrasing. I know it's not exactly correct, but I was out in the deep desert the other day just talking with random people. It was actually pretty fun, The Atreides were making fun of the Harkonnen because we lost the last challenge. But I just told them, I said, we might have lost the last challenge, but at least our uniforms look good. You always say, may your blade chip and shatter. Yeah, you gotta. The thing is, though, is you've got to get an actual crysknife so that you can, you know what I mean? Actually, you don't have to have a crysknife. You can go with like Dunk in Idaho and have a kinjal and just, may your blade chip and shatter. Little kinjal, just a little thing to keep in your boot or on your waist. Or if you're like me, you might have some ceramic bladed daggers, like Feyd-Rautha, razor sharp. You never did tell me what you were going to improve last night with your determination. If you were going to try to get more equipment or whatever, you know. But we'll talk about that later. And you never did answer. Are you in Kentucky? Fade didn't have a Chris knife. No, he didn't. He had two ceramic or ceramasteel bladed daggers, one black, one white. And the reason he did that is the black one was poisoned and the white one was not, except he wouldn't tell. Like people knew, but he never told them. And in the one battle during his birthday, he changed it up. The white blade was actually the poison blade. And the guy he fought in the movie, the Atreides that wasn't drugged, was the guy who trained him how to fight. Like they had hired that guy to train him because apparently he's like a black belt in Filipino stick fighting and knife fighting and all kinds of other shit like that. And the thing they left out, which pissed me off, is after Fade killed him, they called for his head. They wanted Fade to cut his head off, and Fade refused and told everybody that he wanted that man buried with full honors and with his sword, which then the crowd ate up. They loved it. They liked that way better than cutting the head off because it was like, they're like, damn, Fade is freaking just awesome. We love this guy, right? So it would have took them 1 minute to just add that scene, and it would have made the character of Feyd-Rautha like so much more, I don't know, relatable. No, he's a sociopath, but it would have made you realize that, you know, there's a lot more to that guy than just the fact that he really enjoys killing people. You know, like there's an honor to what he does, you know, a certain thing, you know, a certain sense of fair play, even though, you know, I wouldn't count on fair play from him, but, you know, a certain sense of whatever. And they had the means and everything to put it in there, but they didn't. And I think that was a missed opportunity. Not that Fade's ever going to be the good guy. I mean, now in my game, the nobles of House Becca have been invited to go to Getty Prime for Fade's birthday, which is coming up. And they've already, you know, RSVP'd that they are going to show up. And this could be like awesome or not awesome because, I mean, Fade has tried to put the moves on the Lady Becca a couple of times, which is one of the players. Because in addition to liking to kill things, Fade's also kind of a debonair playboy. So, yeah, we're just going to have to see how that works out. I mean, it's weird because the game, you do stuff in this game that you might not normally do in any other game. Like the fact that one of the players, their father is really trying to get them married off to her second cousin, which is kind of like, okay, that's kind of, you know, what's going on here, but it just is the way it is, you know, because it's Dune. And Dune is going to be Dune. you know? And that means that Bene Gesserit sisters are going to be, told by their uh, mother superiors to go get pregnant by random dudes and shit like this. And so I think if you're a female player playing Dune and you're just really uncomfortable with the idea that your character could become pregnant by some random dude because a superior told you, unless you refuse the orders, obviously, Dune might be a hard game for some players. You know what I mean? Just because you don't, if you're playing Bene Gesserit, at least you don't really own your character. I mean, you do, but you don't. There's a lot of politics involved. If you're a noble at all, there's a lot of, listening to the noble above you and trying to follow, going to Kentucky on Wednesday. Are you going to swing by and pick me up on your way? That would be so out of your way. Drive all those hours down here just to turn around and immediately hit 75 to go back. Yeah, that would be hellish. Plus, I wouldn't like it anyway because I don't like being away from my wife too long. So, she's just a little thing. Somebody needs to be around to protect her. So, yeah. Let me see here. I'm going to try a thing here. I'm dropping some white on these portholes on these battleships, and I will probably then go back and drop in some yellow contrast. Maybe even some of the Army Painter yellow contrast, which will make them look more orangey. Because the one thing with these Sathar, I mean, there's a lot of detail on them, and I have not painted any of the detail on them. I just basically, went over them with Space Marine Blood Red, Blood Angels Red, and kind of left it at that. And I mean, technically, these guys could use a dry brush of a brighter red just to bring some colors out. They definitely could use the all their weapon pods and everything being painted in some color. I mean, whether it's just metallic or black or any color, really would I think help them out detail wise. The front ends of their engines should probably be painted in my opinion, in some kind of like spectral blue color, like Star Trek, like a blue color. So, so I'll go ahead and experiment with one of them. And because I'm using quick paints, it means the first thing I have to do is paint the area that I'm going to paint white. You know what I mean? So that the actual quick paint can work. Because if you just throw the Army Painter or the Vallejo Express on a dark color, you're going to get pretty much nothing. Pretty much nothing. And then, I mean, I've got a pretty big Sathar fleet if you think about it. I mean, I've got at least 2 or 3 battleships. I've got 3 cruisers, heavy cruisers, and then I've got a swarm of freaking destroyers. In addition, I don't believe I have a carrier, but I do have a bunch of Sathar fighters, which is kind of cool. And I got the Sathar fighters from my Twilight Imperium box set, because if you look at the silhouette of a Sathar fighter from Nighthawks, right, and you look at the silhouette of the fighters from Twilight Imperium, they are identical. And they're just about the right size to mount them up and call them fighters. So that's a thing that happened. Is I just grabbed a handful of them, and said, "Yep, these are going to be Sathar fighters," which means I need to at some point either go on Etsy and buy, or 3D print a Sathar carrier. And they're pretty big, the Sathar carriers are. So now this fighter, or this light cruiser here, let's move these to a safe area while their glue is settling. Because it won't be fully hardened for another 10 hours. This guy, my way of painting these guys is really just to give them a good coat of space gray, which is more of a blue color than a gray color. And then I can dry brush them with this glacier blue. And it makes them look white, but not quite white. So it actually makes them look like that. I mean, especially if I do all the detail. So, I mean, and who wouldn't be proud to have that bad boy floating around on the table looking for trouble? And that's another thing. I think people, you got games like Full Thrust and 5 Parsecs, etc. And those are absolutely good games. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them, right? But the actual Starship rules for Star Frontiers, they're really good. And I think that's a thing some people might, not know or appreciate. It's like those rules are actually really good. And the fact that you can design your own starships, and you don't need hexes to play. You might need a protractor, because every time a ship uses a movement point to make a turn, it's a 60-degree turn. So you're going to need something so that, but I mean, if you're using miniatures to play a Nighthawks battle, you just play it on a tabletop. I mean, of course, it would look better if you had like, a throwdown mat that looked like stars or whatever, which I do. But I mean, you don't even got to do that. And then, play the game and be like, damn, it's a good game, right? So I am cleaning this Horsey base up, because I think the one battleship that the things fell off of, I think I could mount it on this, with a post on either end of the base. And that might be a good way to mount these guys up. So first thing is I grabbed this Space Gray. Space Gray. Doesn't look gray, does it? Looks blue. But so since I've got this cruiser in front of me, and I don't know if that's a light cruiser or a battle cruiser. I think that's a light cruiser. And then grab one of my brushes. It's got, some nice bristles on it, and just get a big bunch of that paint on that brush, because, with Vallejo Express or contrast paints, you probably want to go a little heavier than you normally would. And one thing that I do too is a lot of times I will put a drop or two of water in it, and that'll help it just, sink into all the crevices and stuff like that. Which when you're painting, anything that has a lot of crevices and lines and whatever, then that's an important thing. So right up here, this guy's got a laser battery. It's actually got 3 laser batteries, and I think some torpedoes, but I'm not sure. These are actually not too bad of ships, considering they were born when these ships were made when I was like, I don't know, 15. And I got a whole box with I don't know, there might be 100 of them in there of various types. And all I did is trade the guy who had all of these ships a box of the Marvel miniature war game. I forget what it's called, but it's the one where you play on the tabletop and you play Marvel superheroes and whatever, and yeah, the guy was like, I've got all these, and I'll trade them to you. They've just been sitting in a garage for years, and this is what I want, this Marvel game. So I went on eBay and I looked up the Marvel game, and it was like, I don't know, $55. So I made sure it was the right game, and I ordered it. And when it came in, I told him, I said, I've got it. And he showed up with 2 big cases of Star Frontiers miniatures and an actual box set of Star Frontiers miniatures in the original box. And I was just like, damn, man. I almost felt bad because, I don't want to, I'm not a merchant at heart. I'm really bad at doing trades and stuff because I don't want to take advantage of anybody. And I almost felt like I was taking advantage of this guy big time. And so I gave him the talk, like, are you sure you want to do this? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, I mean, and I told him, I was like, these things, I mean, they're rare. They might actually be worth a lot more than, what you're trying to get for them. And he's like, I don't care. So I gave him a whole talk about it. I was like, are you sure? Just like that. Are you sure you want to trade, a couple hundred assorted Star Frontier ships and a complete box set of Star Frontier ships with the box and everything for like a $50 thing? And he's like, 100%. And I was like, well, I mean, okay. I mean, I'll let him do it, but at the same time, I just wanted to make sure that he understood that, what he was trading had very high value, and he just didn't give a shit. Basically, he just wanted gone of the. I mean, and when he brought them over, they were in. They were all in these kind of cases, you know, the kind that. Here, let me move the camera. They were on these kind of cases, right? And there's 3 cases. And I guess because of how he'd had them stored and how old they were, the cases he brought them over in, they were so brittle that if you like messed with them too much, they literally, you know, would break and just shatter, right? It was kind of wild, you know. It was like, all right. I mean, you know. So they must have been sitting in a garage or somewhere for, you know, because they had not been sitting indoors. So these ships had been sitting outside in a garage or something for, I don't know, 20 plus years. So I guess I saved them in a way. Now, whoever primered these guys, boy, they loved their primer because they went heavy with it. But I am far too lazy to try to strip all of these figures. Plus, they're so old that, and these figures are predominantly made out of lead, that I don't want to risk a figure, you know, having lead rot and, you know, ruining it. So it's like, okay, if they're cool, then they're cool, you know. I'm not going to like push it, right? If it's cool, it's cool. I'm leaving it alone. So that's what kind of went on there, you know. Are they primered a little heavier than I would have liked? Yes. But that's probably a really good thing because that thick primer coat is probably the reason none of these figures have suffered from lead corrosion, you know. Because miniatures that are predominantly made out of lead, like all the old miniatures, if you don't primer them or something and keep them up, they'll start oxidizing. And then the next thing you know, they'll just start falling apart, you know. But as long as you get a good coat of primer and paint on them, they'll last basically forever. Now, whoever bought these figures originally, they really liked the UPF. Which is the Unified or United Planetary Federation or whatever. Because dude has like 6 UPF battleships. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, what freaking battle would there ever be 6 of these battleships in, right? And he went really light with the Sathar, like 2 of their big ships and just a couple of whatevers. So it's like, yeah, it's pretty wild. But, and for those of you who don't know, I'm pretty sure you can just get Star Frontiers for free now. There was some kind of thing between the creator of Star Frontiers and Wizard of the Coast and TSR and everything. So you can go online to like the Frontiersman, I think it's called, and get their expanded rules and everything like that, if that interests you. But If you've never seen Star Frontiers, just to let you know, it's a percentile game. So like if a character takes science skills, they basically get a 40% in different science skills. And then as they raise their science skills levels, then each point they raise the science skill is like a bonus 10% to do a thing. And when you pick a PSA, you know, you kind of get, depending on the PSA, a list of, like if you take technical or robotics, then you get like 4 skills under robotics, right? The only place where that is not true is weapons. If you choose a weapon skill, it's a specific weapon. And instead of working with a baseline like 40% plus whatever, weapon skills are half your dex plus 10% per level. So, and I think melee weapons might be half strength plus 10%. So it's it's a whole thing, right? But let's say you've got a character with a dex of 70 and he's got a las pistol, which he is skill level 3 at, then he's going to have a 65% base chance to hit any target. But of course, there are modifiers if the target's behind cover at, different ranges, if the player's running, things like that. So, it keeps everything like hunky dory, where everything is as it should be and, whatever. So, I guess the main thing I would say about it is it's an incredibly simple system because, depending on which species you are, first off, you roll up your attributes, and there's not that many. And depending on which species you are, you might get a bonus or a penalty to one of them. And then some species get like special abilities, kind of like the Yazarians, who are pretty much tree squirrels. They have a special ability where they can glide, especially on low gravity worlds because they come from a low gravity world. And so you take care of those special abilities, and then Bob's your Scudder. The character's basically done. After that, as you gain XP, you just use it to improve different skills and whatever. So, and every character can start out at least knowing how to use a firearm, because you pick your PSA, and then you can pick any one other skill. So you can choose science, and then say, and also Garrojets, which are, you guys know, they're a weapon in Star Frontiers, which works, but when we tried it in real life, wasn't all that great. Wasn't very good at all, actually. So, so you can have a character whose main role is different sciences or whatever, but he could still fire a pistol, if he needs to. And that's good, That makes the characters a lot less, one dimensional, just freaking kind of hanging out, being like, well, I'm the ship's scientist, but I can't do anything if we get in a firefight. It's like, no, it don't work that way. And then if you get like one of your weapon skills, beam or whatever, up to high enough level, you can actually start dumping points into gunnery. And gunnery means that you can actually be a gunner on a starship. That's the whole point of the Nighthawk expansion, was players could, if they chose, work their way up to becoming, you know, the crew of, say, an Osprey attack scout or something like that, and pretty much go on missions and fly around and get into trouble and all kinds of good stuff. That was just kind of what was going down. And yeah. Nice. So yeah, that was a good thing, I think. And then they have a lot of they made quite a few adventures that assumed the players were piloting a Osprey class assault scout, like Dramune Run and stuff like that. So yeah, that was definitely the intended way the game was supposed to be played. You start out as adventurers, catching jumps from here to there, making your money, gaining skills, making a name for yourself, as mercenaries or whatever, problem solvers. And then eventually, if your skills get high enough, you go to Space Academy. And then eventually, if you do your thing there, then you end up getting put on the crew of an actual starship. And I'll tell you what, as a little kid, that was definitely when you made your character, no matter what character you made, the fact that you're working towards maybe one day being the pilot, gunner, engineer, whatever of a starship, that's a big kind of motivation. You know what I mean? In my opinion, that's way cooler than, oh, I'm going to get a little bit better with a sword or an axe or maybe gain another spell. I mean, not them trying to hate on fantasy, but I mean, yeah, what sounds cooler, I'm gaining another spell, cool, or I'm literally going to Starfleet Academy or whatever they called their academy, and I'm going to become a crew member on a starship. I mean, now me, I think most of you already know where my opinion is. I mean, how do you not want to be the crew member of a starship, just kind of cruising around, doing missions, hunting pirates, patrolling the frontier, and the ship that you end up getting, if you follow that line, the Osprey scout ship, it's a very small ship, but for its size, it's good. It's got torpedoes and stuff like that. So for its size, and I've got one here somewhere. Actually, I've got like 50 here somewhere. Let's see, but they're small. Like this, right? Oh, okay. This right here. Actually, this is a pirate ship, I think. Yeah, I think that's a pirate ship. Let's make sure we can get focus in. But it's still in the Scout Courier class. So, yeah. The actual, where is an actual Scout? Here is an actual UPF Osprey class Scout right here. So let's turn it so you can actually see it. So there it is. You know, it's a very small ship. It basically needs a very small crew. And it's got like, you know, maybe a laser cannon and some torpedoes on it. So not really designed to tangle with bigger ships, but at the same time, you'll find those supporting bigger ships. You know what I mean? Like if you got a battleship, you might have a couple of these guys kind of hanging out around it. Tropical Monster. Sounds like my wife's in there listening to Tom McDonald. Or reviews of Tom McDonald. And I'm looking for my Wraith color. Because the devil is a Democrat. And he lives in California. We got here. That's a shade, though. I'm not really seeing it in there. Couple paints here, but let's see. That's same color as Space Gray, except contrast. Okay, do I have? I've got my box here, but I don't see. Oh, that's there. Yep, that's the one. Don't you love it when you're looking for stuff and then you find it? I love it. You know, it's like small victories. Small victories. So in the Dune game, the house that the players are members of, they managed to, and some of you may have already heard this, but they managed to be granted a fiefdom right on the border of the Lesser Erg, which, if you know Dune, you know that it's a, you know, desert that's kind of surrounded almost entirely by shield walls, which are just, you know, cliffs and stone. But there's still multiple ways worms can get into the Lesser Erg, and they do. And they they thought about trying to set up their base in the Hole in the Rock Sietch. But then when they explored the Hole in the Rock Sietch, they found that it was full of, skeletons, and it was not very stable. It just wasn't a good plan to try to mess around in there. Mainly because the Sardaukar had, a decade or so before wiped out all of the Fremen that they could find. And of course, that would include the Hole in the Wall Sietch. So, it was very damaged, not very stable. And there were like hundreds of skeletons just piled up in there, left to rot. Of course, the characters were like, "Are there any crysknives?" And I had to be like, "There are not." Because, the thing with a crysknife is if you don't keep it on your person and oil it and take care of it, eventually they dry out and get really brittle and disintegrate, basically. That's just a thing with crysknives because of, the nature of their construction, the fact that they're made from the tooth of a worm. So they found no crysknives. They just found piles of dead Fremen. So they decided, the Sietch, it might be a nice place to hide out if we have to hide out. But then again, one thing to think of is the last group that hid out in that Sietch, it didn't work out that great for them, Because if you're hiding out in a Sietch, which is basically, an underground bunker type situation, and an enemy dreadnought just pops up over the Sietch and starts dropping, artillery on your ass, well, you're pretty much done. That's pretty much the end of you, because, what are you going to do about it? Nothing. Just, it's just, is it kind of crappy? Yes, it's very crappy, but it's the way it is, And that's another problem with the Hole in Rock Sietch, as they found it is, the mountain that it was, the cliffside really that it was built into, is like rubble, because the Sardaukar pulled up on it with a starship and just bombed the shit out of it. So, yeah. Any Fremen who were caught there were buried there. Now, there are legends that maybe some of Fremen did survive, but there's no evidence of that. Dungeon Minister, how are you doing, my good sir? What is new with you, Padre? Hope Father Nectarius doesn't get upset at me for calling, a non-Orthodox priest Padre. I'm sure he won't, though. He knows I'm just showing respect. So, yeah. I'm sure he just knows I'm showing respect for your position. But I hope you've been having a great time. I like your shorts that you've been putting out. They've been really good. And of course, Hungar and I are both huge fans of Touchberry. We're always waiting to see what he's going to get into next. But right now I'm painting some very old, I don't know your age. These might be even older than you, but I'm painting some very, very old Sathar ships from, Star Frontiers. that I've had these for years. I traded the Marvel superhero tabletop game. That's what the guy wanted, so that's why I traded him. And he gave me two big old boxes. You're wearing a pair of shorts now? Yeah, when I live stream, I generally live stream in my underwear because no one can see anyway. I mean, I'm lying, obviously, but come on, let's see if this'll. Okay, looks like my battleship's going to stand on the enlarged cavalry base, and that's pretty cool because that'll be a lot sturdier than two painting some barrels. I forget where you are. You in Alberta, Ontario? Where are you at? You're like just north of Montana, aren't you? Something like that. The way they're talking on the news, you might end up being American again. Okay. Yeah, the first thing I saw when I woke up today was some BS or what, maybe not BS, about how Alberta is basically saying that Alberta and Saskatchewan are just going to be part of America. That's just what's happening. And so I'm like, I've been calling Bear, my future American friend, which I don't mean anything mean by it. I do think it's funny that most Canadians, their entire identity is not being American. It's like they don't actually have an identity except they're not American. And it's like, all right. But I love my Canadian brothers. They know that. Like, if I were a young man and somebody invaded Canada, I would volunteer to go up there. And well, the thing is the U.S. has not taken any of the progressive states. It's the what you guys would consider the far right provinces that want to join the U.S. So like Saskatchewan, Alberta, the places in the Midwest that hate the liberal government in we don't want any of the rest, just the Western ones, because apparently their viewpoints are not very far off of what ours is, as conservatives, and they consider themselves conservatives. And they were showing some of these dudes that own like ranches and shit fly American flags and stuff instead of Canadian flags, which I don't know. I mean, that seems kind of like, I don't know, maybe you shouldn't do that. Because I know if I see people flying like a Mexican flag, I'm all like, hey, you like Mexico so much, take your dumb ass back there, and maybe that's just a very American way of being, the whole, America, love it or leave it, whatever. But the way it's looking, though, it's your Western, really conservative, mostly blue collar oil producing provinces all want to possibly join with the United States because they know they'll make a shit ton of money if they do. This is one of my favorite designs of any design of a starship ever. I absolutely love this design, right? In reality, like, you see how there's the two big tanks on either side of the middle part? Those completely detach. And so this is basically a merchant ship, and it's got like an elevator that runs down that central spine, and you can hook, tanks and various other like cargo containers up to it. And so, unlike some merchant ships where you actually put the cargo inside of a cargo hanger or something, this ship, you strap it onto the outside. You could be true. It could be like, it could turn out to be like what, Quebec did back in the 80s or whenever, when they threatened to leave unless, everybody learned French and stuff like that. And Quebec, apparently, their nationalist movement is getting bigger too. But yeah, America, I don't think would ever allow Quebec to join America. At least I hope not. Because if the Quebecois think Americans are going to be like, oh, now we all have to learn French. Well, no, that's not going to happen. We have a national language in the United States recently, and it's English. Our president had the law passed where English is the national language of the United States. So, if you want to live here, learn English. I'm like, all right, that makes sense. This is a Corvette. So basically like a Scout Courier, except bigger, with a bigger crew and more weapons. Like I said, the guy, for every Sathar ship, there's like 3 human UPF ships. So this guy was really definitely spending his money on UPF ships. So, which is fine. I mean, but whatever. I mean, the great thing is in the advanced rules for Space Knights or whatever, they have ship construction rules. So you can pretty much, any starship miniature you have, depending on, take a look at it and determine whether you think it's, a frigate, a destroyer, what class of ship it is, and then you can just build it. It's not that hard. All you do is you figure out, how many hit points it has, armor and shielding, if it has any at all, and then how many weapons it carries, and then you're done, really. Because ships in this game have hit points, so when they take hits, they lose hull points, actually, HP, but hull points. And then there's also a chance that they'll, have an electrical fire, some secondary thing will happen that, you wouldn't want to happen, but it did anyway. So that's kind of a thing. Yeah. Too many ships they make, and you're like, what is that? What is that doing over there? I don't know, but like the guys, I got some ships off of a guy, I think here in Florida, actually, right? And he sent me a free one just because, which is always good. If you order a couple things and they send you your things, but then they send you a free one just because, that's like, well, awesome, right? But the free ship he sent me looks like, let me fix the camera so you can see it and back it up some. It looks like some kind of fish, like maybe a hammerhead shark or something. Back it up a little bit. And that would be really cool for an alien ship, I guess. Like you're humans and you encounter some fish shark people or something. And, they've designed their ships to look like sharks for some reason. I guess. I don't know. Another group of ships I own that I would probably use in a Nighthawks battle. Um, um, what's up, Coco? How you doing, homie? I forget the name of the game, but it had like Terrans and this and that, and you bought your little fleets, and they were resin ships and whatever. So I have all of them, plus the carriers, and everything like that. I might have to do a little thing where I um, actually convert them over to Nighthawk statistics. I mean, the battleship is huge. It's huge. So, like, it wouldn't be like a UPF battleship or Sathar battleship. That thing would be like a dreadnought because it's just, not only is it like 6 inches long, but I mean, it's just big. But all the other ships are, just standard, goofing around ships, you know what I mean? So, but like I said, I mean, they have full rules for using miniatures on a table, and like a movement point just allows you to move however many inches and turn up to 60 degrees. So, well, I'm glad. This is a thing. Like this morning, I woke up and hung out with the wife. We had a whole conversation. She tolerated because I don't think she really cares that much about the hairy man in Kentucky and how it's supposedly like a Bigfoot, except according to all the Cherokee elders, no, it wants to kill and eat you. So imagine an evil Bigfoot. But then I had my own theory about Bigfoot. Like, people think Bigfoot is nice. Let's say Bigfoot's some kind of big ape, right? And I said this yesterday and I'll say it today. It's like, does Bigfoot, if it's a big ape creature, is its personality more like a silverback gorilla or a chimpanzee? Because if it's like a silverback gorilla, then yeah, as long as you show it deference and you don't try to F with it, chances are it's going to let you be, right? But if its personality is like a chimpanzee, then this thing will kill and eat you because chimpanzees are just evil by nature. You know what I mean? They're like all of the strength and everything of a super villain with the mentality of a angry 3-year-old child. And they're super spiteful as well. So, yeah, if Bigfoot acts more like a chimp, then you don't want to be anywhere near that bastard. Because chimpanzees are just straight up the worst, right? And yeah, that's pretty much all I gotta say about that. You don't want to be near a chimpanzee, like chimpanzees are so spiteful. True story. I heard about it on Casual Geographic, and I trust that guy. Some dude who used to own a chimp, but then like gave it to a zoo or something, brought a birthday cake to his pet. And because he didn't bring a cake for the other chimps, they broke out of their enclosure and they ripped him to shit. They pulled his face out. They ripped his testicles off. I mean, they literally went ham on him because they were jealous that the one chimp got cake and they didn't. And that's just how a chimp is, right? So, yeah, F those guys, That's what I say about chimps. F them. Wood booger, I don't know about wood booger. But, yeah, Sukaloo, maybe. I've heard them called either Bigfoots or hairy men. And I know the Cherokee believe in them. And they've been there just about as long as my people have. So I trust them. I don't think, as Bear says, they're just trying to pull a fast one on the white man. I think that they probably, I mean, like I said, you guys can look it up. There was a Indian versus Sasquatch war, I think in Missouri or Kansas or some shit, back in like 1800 something, because the Sasquatches kept going into the Indian town and stealing women and children and eating them. So eventually, one of their war chiefs, who for some reason had a French name, he put together the warriors and they went out to hunt these things. And when they found them, they got into a big fight. Well, I'm only hairy on my chin, dude. I don't have any hair anywhere else. It's a weird thing. And I couldn't grow facial hair until I was 30 anyway. So Hungar now, on the other hand, he had a beard in high school. He was starting to get his first whiskers in like the 8th grade, So by the time he went from middle school to high school, I mean, that dude was rocking a full-on biker beard. And, a bright green mohawk. That was on his, because we had to get high school IDs. And his high school ID was a bright green, like neon green mohawk and a full beard with a cigarette in his mouth, because he was really cool with the guy who was taking all the pictures. And he had that guy make his student ID where his photograph was upside down. Well, the massive fro, that was when he was a little younger. Like when you see the picture of him in that picture, I don't know, he's like 14, maybe 13. He's young. Me, if I showed you pictures of me, I grew my hair out. My hair grows out board straight, and it was black when I was young, which led a lot of my relatives to saying that I must be part Cherokee or something, because they said I looked Indian. I had, black eyes, because my eyes are so dark that they look black, and my hair was black. And I didn't grow facial hair, and I tanned up real nice. Catch you later, Bubba. So everybody was like, "Oh yeah, that guy's got to have some Indian blood in him," even though secretly I thought more likely African, just because. But then I did my DNA, and it's neither. I have not a drop of native blood, even though I hate to call them natives, because they're no more natives than we are. And not a drop of African blood either, which surprised me, because I know for a fact my grandfather, well, great, whatever, you know what I mean, guys, on my maternal side owned a plantation full of slaves. So in South Carolina. So my assumption was the darkness that I had when I was younger, the darkness is spreading, y'all, had to do with someone dallying around with, a slave. But no, got no African blood either. As a matter of fact, mostly German. And after German, various Scandinavian, but not Finnish. No Finnish at all, but Swedish, Danish, Norwegian mostly Norwegian, and then a dash of the other ones. But I often wonder, because I'm 4% Irish too, and my surname is Irish. So I often wonder if I got the Danish blood through the Irish, because as we all know, the Irish set up villages, Dublin, Leinster, in or the Vikings set up villages in Ireland, and they were big into intermingling, let's say, with natives. So even though I have an Irish surname, it is entirely possible that I came from a Scandinavian family that had settled in Ireland, and for some reason not, integrated quite as hard as, a lot of the others did. I mean, genetics is interesting. And those of you who are like, what do you mean you don't consider Indians more native than we are? Well, I mean, they migrated over here a couple thousand years before we did, but it doesn't change the fact that they're Asians and they migrated from Asia to America. They're no more indigenous to North America than anyone else. They're indigenous to Siberia. Uh, you know. So when we talk about who colonized what, it's always important, I guess, to designate how far back we want to go about it. I mean, if you're only going to go back 300 years, then yeah. But if you're going to go back 5,000 years, then all of a sudden everything changes, and it's an entirely different subject. You know what I mean? Yep. Yes, First Nations, which is a fair. I mean, because we could call ours First Nation because they were the First Nations here, but that don't make them indigenous. You know what I mean? It just means they beat us to the continent. But then once we got here, we crushed them with our superior art of warfare and technology. And not to be like a way, but that is the way of humanity. This idea that one culture should not do these things, and it's like, but it's been happening since the first men gathered together and decided to conquer the farms and shit of the neighboring tribe. So I mean, you can't be mad about it. You know what I mean? It's just like, okay. I mean, the Ojibwa have been near the Great Lakes region for, thousands of years, but they were conquered by, and a lot of people will get mad if I say it, but I'm going to, a superior culture. Why superior? Mostly technology. I mean, I'm not saying we're morally greater than they are, but we had better technology. And because Europe was basically just one giant hellhole of people raiding and fighting and killing each other, a side effect of that people don't want to embrace, I guess, is that Europeans are just naturally better, at least back in those days, at being brutal warfare type bastards than a lot of other cultures. A lot of other cultures just were not prepared for, the European experience. You know what I mean? Yeah. Except the first men were actually native to Westeros, and the First Nations are not native to Canada. You know what I mean? I know in Alaska, some of the Indians there, they'll actually spend part of their time in Siberia. Like they go back and forth. You know what I mean? Just because, some of them are the same people as the ones in Siberia, which I think is cool. And Hungar, of course, when we were in Alaska, he dated I think she was Kick Chuck, but I forget, because when you get to Alaska and you start dealing with like the Indians, they're it's like there's a tribe every mile, you know, and you might look at them and think that they're all the same, but in reality, they can be drastically different, Like some of the tribes spend all of their time in the forests, and some of the tribes spend all of their time in the sea. And then, yet, other tribes spend all of their time during the winter out on the ice, So, even though they all look like basically Asian people in big, thick freaking coats, culturally, they can be very different. But one thing I learned is they have no racism towards their women dating white guys. They are 100% okay with it, which is, that's the same thing that I learned in North Dakota. Because in North Dakota, Hungar was dating a Lakota Sioux woman, and he would pull up on the reservation all the time. And the men, if they had a problem, they didn't say anything to Hungar, right? But, and this is something people don't like to hear, but I say it because it's a fact. Let a brother pull up on that reservation with those Lakota Sioux. It's not going to work out the same way. You know what I mean? People want to believe that Indians are like these super noble savages, but like some of the most racist people I ever met in my life were Lakota Sioux. Like embarrassing. I'm a Southerner. You would think I'd be more racist than they are. Oh no, because I'm like a live and let live kind of guy. Those guys actively hate people. And some people they don't even consider to be people. You know what I mean? And yeah, if you're a Lakota Sioux woman and you bring a black guy onto that reservation, you're gonna have issues. And those reservations are already rough. You think like the ghettos and the inner cities are rough? Go on some of those reservations and you will change your mind very quickly. I like how I mounted this guy on it. Do I need to be quieter?
No, but I figured out what's wrong with the bathroom. The top of it is coming apart.
That's wonderful.
Okay.
There's nothing else I can say about it. It's
I
like
almost got trapped in there for a sec. I was trying to fix it.
it's like I thought it'd be an easy fix, and now maybe it won't.
I don't know.
I blame you because you're heavy-handed.
Except I've never used that shower. I'm not the one.
Yeah, but you've opened the door, and you probably were heavy-handed when you did it.
Okay.
I'm like Carl Pilkington. I'm like your house repairman.
We
You
definitively need to work on it together because the track is all jacked
it's
up.
like you walk around breaking shit, and I follow behind you fixing it.
Except you don't.
Yeah, I do.
And of the last things that have been broken, I touched none of them. I didn't break the chairs. I didn't break the thing. I didn't break any of it. I found the stuff that was broken, but I didn't break it.
How do you keep finding broken shit? How about you start minding your own business? Staying out of places. I love you.
I'm going to make you start cleaning everything. That's how I find out the broken.
Make me clean everything. I did clean stuff. Me and my wife have a great relationship, I think. She breaks shit, I fix it, But she takes care of me. She makes sure that I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. So can't really complain, guys. Can't, when you find a good one, you just gotta trick her into marrying you somehow. And then be really charming. And you guys may not believe this, but your boy can be charming. And I can be funny. And that's probably why she married me and is still with me, is the fact that I can crack jokes and make her laugh, Plus, she feels protected with me around because she knows anybody who is trying to hurt her is going to have to kill me first. You know what I mean? But I do love that square. That is one of the extra big ones for the new old world when they increased everything by 5 millimeter. But you see how sturdy that guy is? And it'd be so easy to just measure from the front. And if you got to do a turn, a 60-degree turn, I mean, right? So I don't know. Maybe I'll get the gumption to knock the hexes off the bottom of these battleships here and just, post connect them to horsey bases. I mean, these are pretty sturdy though. The way they are, they're pretty sturdy though. So, but yeah, our sliding shower door in the guest bathroom's been acting up. If you guys are wondering what the wife and I were talking about, and I was just cracking some jokes at her, based on the Ricky Gervais show, because Carl Pilkington is pretty much my spirit animal, and yeah, pretty much. So I was giving her the whole you walk around and break everything and I fix things, and which is not necessarily true. But yeah, she keeps me in line so that I don't get in any trouble. And that's good. And we hang out while she works, and I play Dune and she works, and we talk about the Hairy Man and various other things. Like, here is something I learned. See, Bubba left, unfortunately, because he could tell me how his people do it where he is in Kentucky. But in my part of Kentucky, you never sleep with a window open. And that doesn't mean like the glass and the screen. You can crack the glass open so that screen allows whatever, but you always pull the curtain. And, right? You got to keep things interesting, right? Right, Padre? I mean, I assume you know a lot about marriage, and I have to admit my flaws. It took me 11 years to figure marriage out, and some failures. So some like true crash and burn failures. And then I figured it out. Basically, what I had to figure out, and excuse my language, Padre, but what I had to figure out is no matter how fun you think it is dating like that slutty chick, you will not turn her into a housewife, no matter how hard you try. And so even though you're having all this fun because, you're being, way more sexually active than you really should. I say that as a Christian now. I was not Christian then. It's only a matter of time before they cheat on you, because that's just their nature, These girls, maybe they've been through trauma, or maybe that's what they want to do, right? So you get with the hot redhead with the fake boobs or whatever, and you you fall in love and start thinking you're going to turn her into a good girl, but it ain't going to happen. You know, it ain't going to happen. And it took me a couple times because I've got that hero complex where, I always believe I can help or fix anyone's problems, which is probably why, I went from, infantryman to firefighter to whatever, right? Because I've got a hero complex and quite possibly suicidal tendencies. And yes, the rock band Suicidal Tendencies is awesome. I love that band. But I took jobs where the chance of dying was really, really good. So like in hindsight, I'm like, did I want to die? I mean, what was going on here? Why am I taking these jobs where, there's a high probability of death? I mean, I've been shot at multiple times. I've been in house fires that I swear we would never get out, and we were going to die in them. But that's just what I did. And as a result, I also, when I would encounter a broken, girl, I say girl, but they were, my age. I always thought I can fix them. I can, whatever their problem is, I can help them and turn them into good girls and blah, blah, blah. And you know what? I failed every time. Every time I failed. Every single time. See, this is not a Star Frontier ship. This is a random ship that cost me $2 off of Etsy that I'm painting up, right? But if you compare it by size to, say, this UPF cruiser, then you can kind of see that this guy here, if you made a a sheet for it, a ship sheet, which is like a character sheet, it's probably going to be around the same tonnage and everything as a UPF cruiser. You just compare things and make your best judgment. I know nothing. That's what the wise man says, right? The wise man says he knows nothing. And it is the fool who thinks he knows everything. And boy, oh boy, was I a fool for most of my life. See, I can admit it now because I'm like, whatever, Plus, you guys are like, bros and shit. So I'll chat with you. I'll tell you stuff, right? I will 100% admit that I was probably, until I was 32, maybe a little bit mentally retarded. Maybe. I was a little bit too much of a hold my beer kind of guy, and a little too much of, sure, she's a bad girl and blah, 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 but I can fix her kind of guy. And, I paid for it. And then when I got late 20s, early 30s, I started looking around and I was like, this lifestyle is getting tiring, I mean, not the running around and risking my life all the time, but the, being cheated on all the time. And the best part when you get cheated on, my favorite part is when they make it your fault, right? That's my favorite part now. Like back in the old days, that was the part that hurt the worst. But when I look at now, I laugh. But, like you catch your girlfriend or wife cheating and they tell you the reason they're cheating is you're never home, right? Except the reason you're never home is you're working 60 hours a week to support them because they don't have a job. And, they have extravagant taste in things, right? So it's like, nowadays they call it gas lighting. Back then, I don't know if we had a term for it, but yeah, that was good times. That was good times, because you're a young idiot and the girl that you think you love or whatever is telling you the reason she went out on you is because you're never home, except you're never home because you're supporting her lazy ass. It's like, so I had to learn about that. That looks actually good in that Horace sea green. That's what that is. I did it in the light blue that I've been doing a lot of ships in. And I said, nah, let's do something a little different. So I did a thin down Sons of Horus green, that I bought just in case I painted Sons of Horus for a 30K army. Because I still have 30K armies. I just use one-page rules. Now, I imagine the Padre probably, his parents set up his marriage when he was a kid. And then he probably met his wife like on the wedding day. And they got married and started having a bunch of kids because, maybe that's how the Padre does it. I know that my Russian ancestors, that's how they did it. Like my great grandmother did not know my great grandfather until they met at the wedding. But they had been picked to be married since they were like 5. So, like, they knew they were going to be married, when they were of age, which, a little bit different than nowadays. And they knew to whom they were going to be married, and they had no choice in the matter. It was already decided. I was just joking about how you might have been the product of an arranged marriage. I don't know how you do things. But I will say this, after being through 2 divorces and stuff like that, I'm not necessarily opposed to arranged marriage. Because I know for a fact if my mom had picked my wife, I would have had a great wife. Because there's no way my mom would have picked a bad girl for me. You know what I mean? And if you live with someone long enough, I'm sure you learn to love them, especially if you're never ever allowed to get divorced. So you're kind of in a situation where, well, you might as well learn to love this guy because, you're going to be with him until you die. That was my great grandmother's experience in the homeland. The motherland, as some people would call it. Her parents made the arrangement with the parents of my great grandfather. Of course, I called them this, even though they're not technically blood related. They're my stepdad's family, but I count them as my family. When they were like 5. Which would have been like in the 1800s, Fled to backwoods Alaska by now. I tried to convince my wife to move to Alaska. She won't do it. See, I've been up there before, and Hungar's lived there for years. Like 100 miles north of Anchorage or so. And I love Alaska. I love it. And I love my wife enough that if she were the only human being I saw, I would be okay with that. I'd still talk to you guys on the magic interwebs, but yeah, being up there isolated, not seeing anybody wouldn't bother me a bit. Go into town once a month for freaking beans and cornmeal and whatever. Yeah, I'd be fine with that because I can eat soup, beans, and cornbread every freaking day and never get tired of it. And then just for meat, whatever I shoot out in the yard, you know what I mean? If I shoot a bear, then break out the sausage grinder because bear you want to grind up into like hamburger meat before you eat it because otherwise it's just too tough, too stringy. But you grind it up into hamburger meat and then you use it in something really heavily seasoned like chili or curry or something, and it's really good. You know what I mean? So yeah, yeah. And yeah, of course, if you get a moose, the big problem with eating a lot of moose is it's like rabbit. There's not a lot of fat in moose meat, so you definitely want to keep lard at the house so that you can, fry that moose in lard so that you can get the fat intake because when we're up in Alaska, we probably ate 10,000 calories a day just to maintain our weight because I mean it's cold, and if you don't eat enough calories, especially fat, your body will have a hard time maintaining a core temperature, and that's just a bad situation for you. You don't want to be there. So yeah, you eat tons of fatty food all the time. Now, the natives, I've seen them eating muktuk, but I won't eat muktuk, but they eat it. And muktuk is just, they take the whale blubber, but still attached to the skin, and they cut it into a square about, yay big, and they smoke it. And then they gnaw on that shit all day. They'll have it. And it's basically just a big chunk of whale lard, but the skin on it is where they get all the vitamin C from. Because I mean, they still need vitamin C, but it's not like they're getting oranges anywhere, right? And it turns out that certain types of whales, like beluga and stuff like that, they have more vitamin C in their skin than oranges. So they make them some muktuk, get them some vitamin C, Yeah, Haas always had a thing he'd say about Willie Malukatuck cruising his kayak down Main Street, chewing on a block of muktuk. But one question I should ask my brother whenever I get a chance, because I've often wondered this because I never dated any of the Indian girls, is like, when they take their suits off, right? Do they smell? Like when they take all that furs and everything off, do they got like really bad BO and stuff? I mean, inquiring minds want to know, right? And my brother would know. I mean, he dated one of those women, like I said, a Kinchuk or whatever tribe she was, one of the coastal Indians. He dated one of those for like a year. So I'm sure that they fooled around a little bit because he was of age. So, yeah, I'm nosy about it. You know what I mean? I'm like, because, they've been wearing that freaking suit for like a year straight, right? I don't know. Like, it's not like they bathe because they got no water to bathe in, right? In the towns, they actually have a guy whose job is to drive around and pick up poop buckets because you can't have toilets in Alaska like we have down here because the ground freezes. So everybody has to poop in a bucket, not directly into a bucket. You make toilets that the buckets go in. And then every morning you put the bucket out on the porch And there's a guy who drives down the street and he takes your full bucket and gives you an empty bucket. And that's his whole job. That's his whole job, right? And so you learn, like, if you're a guy and you just got pee, you just go outside and pee. You know, you don't pee in the bucket because that's stupid, right? But if you got to do a number two, I guess you can go out into the snow behind the house and do it, but that's kind of nasty. So you do it in a bucket. So we had Mr. Dress Up here in Canada, I think Mr. Rogers, but there's an old vid of him up north trying raw sill meat. The camera quickly panned away. Was not for the white guy, LOL. Yeah, that's those coastal Indians that hunt sill like that. And I think the one that Hungar dated was a coastal Indian, but you've got, like I said, you've got like the coastal Indians, like sill hunters, and then you've got like fishers, and then you've got like the ones that live in the woods, in the forest, and spend all their time hunting deer and moose. And I mean, there's a lot of different kind of cultures up there. But everyone I ever met has been super friendly to the white guy, you know? So, you know, there you go. Maybe other people have had different experiences. I don't know, but not my experience at all. Even the Lakota Sioux were reasonably polite when you pulled into the reservation to visit your girlfriend, you know? And they have a reason, I guess, to be pissed off because, I mean, the United States has put beatings on the Lakota. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have beat the shit out of those guys numerous times in numerous wars. And I'm sure some of them probably still hold a grudge, but the ones I met were cool. However, the reservation in North Dakota, it looked like a trailer park. It was just like everyone living in trailers, trucks on blocks, dogs everywhere, freaking poor, people trying to smuggle alcohol onto the res, you know. And of course, there was a liquor store just a couple miles off the res. So people would try to drive there and get whatever, and then they would try to sneak it back in. And if you got caught by the res cops, then you got to go to their jail, which is no joke. I mean, it sucks. Yeah, it's a whole thing, man. It's a whole thing. I mean, I don't know about you Canadians, how you guys deal with your First Nations people, but it can be complicated down here, you know? Now, Florida, the Seminoles, they're loving life. I mean, for one thing, Florida State, because Florida State University is the Florida State Seminoles, because they use the name of the tribe, which the Seminoles are super happy about, they give free scholarships to Seminole Indians that you know meet the requirements, right? And if you ever go to a Seminole football game, before the game starts, you'll see the Seminole Indian ride out on the horse with the spear and do his war call, and he'll circle the whole football field doing his war yell, and then he'll run up to the other team's end zone and throw the spear into it and stick it down, and then he'll, you know, whoop and holler and put on a show. It's pretty freaking intense. And the guy they get to do that is a 100% Seminole. So, you know, they're pretty cool people. Plus, they got some casinos down south, I think. They wanted to move them up to northern parts of Florida, but it keeps getting voted down. Because, like, the last thing Orlando needs is a big Indian casino right in the middle of downtown, because the people who run Orlando, they're afraid that it would attract the wrong, type of people like mafiosos and shit. And I don't know if they're right or not, but yeah, I never ate any of that. Anywhere I ever been, like if I didn't know what the food was, I ordered a cheeseburger, because no matter where you go, pretty much everyone of any culture knows what the hell a cheeseburger is. Whether you're in Saudi Arabia, Greece, wherever you are, if you order a cheeseburger, they know what the hell a cheeseburger is, because, it's just the American thing, right? Give me a cheeseburger. And you just hope it's not made out of camel. But yeah, Coco, I've seen them eating seal raw, eating the eyes and like all the stuff just raw, right on, just right on the floor of their kitchen. They laid down like a bunch of newspaper, and then they just started cutting the seal up and eating it. And I'm just like, wow, okay. I mean, cool. I mean, I eat my steak rare or medium rare, so okay. I'm not super disgusted by it, but overall nice people. The Lakota Sioux, overall nice people, unless they get drunk. And then that reservation has huge problems with incredibly bad crimes. You know what I mean? So there's a reason that the res cops try so hard. They work so hard to keep alcohol out of there, because if you look up the SA amount that happens in on some of these reservations, it's like 70-80% of young women are I don't even want to say the word, but you know what I mean. And sometimes it's family members and stuff, right? And almost every time it's because the attacker is drunk. So yeah, they have to do something about that, because that's just not cool, right? So I agree, Coco, but I think they just consider it to be kind of a fact. I know they do on the reses, that Indians cannot handle the firewater. It is what it is. Like, they genetically are predisposed to alcoholism. So, for their own good, you got to keep them away from that shit. Kind of like how some rednecks are, I guess, genetically predisposed to be meth heads. Actually, I don't know if that's true or not, but yeah. Like, the Indians themselves will tell you that they have a nasty time with the whole trying not to be alcoholics, because I don't know why, something in their genes. It's like a real thing, I mean, they got a Cherokee reservation in Wyoming, but since the Cherokee tribe bought that town in Kentucky, a lot of the Cherokee that were on the reservation are starting to move back to Appalachia and just get jobs and stuff. And what's crazy is they are the least Indian-looking Indians you'll ever see. It's like when you see Lakota, you know these are Indians, right? When you see Cherokee, some of them, I mean, you just think they look like a white dude. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's because of, intermingling or whatever, but it's pretty crazy. But they're really cool. You can go to their little town and they got like, tourist things. So you can go there and buy actual Cherokee art and listen to the elders tell stories about, moon-eyed people and shit like that. I mean, it's actually like really badass, Um, yeah, it's really badass. I mean, if you're into that, if that's what you're into, and then maybe later we'll get hot by the refrigerator. Anyway, that's I apologize for my horrible singing, and that is I think Flight of the Conchords thing. And I think the song was called If It's What You're Into. And it gets really weird really quick. They start talking about all kinds of shit. And you're just like, wait, what? Not 100% sure that I agree with any of this, but, they're from New Zealand, so I guess they get past. And I say that as somebody who has a nephew that lives in New Zealand. So, what's funny? You know how in Flight of the Conchords they're all like, how they act like Australians are just basically all a bunch of scumbags and shit. My nephew moved to New Zealand, and 2 years after he got there, he married an Australian woman, and she did nothing but treat him like shit and cheat on him. So he divorced her. And I'm like, maybe like the Flight of the Conchords do not like the idea of dating an Australian. And my nephew married an Australian, and it turned out terrible. Yeah. And then years later, after his divorce, he married a Filipino woman, and they've had a couple of kids now, and he's super happy. And he sends pictures of his kids, and they're beautiful. And his little Filipino wife, because he's my height, he's like 6'1", 6'2", a lot better built because all he does is work, and he's been in New Zealand now for like 15 years. So he's a full citizen. He gets their health programs and all of that, because like 20 years ago, there were literally people in America trying to recruit 20-year-old men to move to Australia or New Zealand, New Zealand. It was like a thing, they're like, we guarantee you a job, a house, blah, blah, blah. After 7 years, you'll be a citizen, this, that, and the other thing. And one of my nephews, who really had nothing going here, took him up on it. Ended up working on a sheep farm for 10 years. I'm not sure what he's doing now, but I know that whatever it is, it's near Christchurch. That's where he lives. Or near, not in, but somewhere around Christchurch. And he's got his, like I said, he's got his little Filipina, and they got kids. Yeah, I won't get copyright strike for singing their song. Or I could do bird plane, right? And be like, every song is like 4 chords. 4 chords. Forever young, I want to be forever young. I don't care about You know that shit is hilarious to me, guys. I'm sorry. I'm yours. Lipstick, or yeah, lipstick stains on the corner of my left side brain. I know I wouldn't forget you if I could. Then I would go with you wherever you go. Can you feel? Yeah, I love it that like four chord. They're like the number two parody band in Australia, and the number one parody band is a parody band of them. So that's what they always say. So it's like, so basically, someone parodying you is more popular than you, and you're a parody band. That's okay. All right, cool, cool. I mean, yeah. But yeah, the Doom game was pretty exciting last night. They were well, okay, one of the characters who is a smuggler and for assets has a carry-all and a spice harvester and a couple of ornithopters went out to a spice blow in the Lesser Erg desert. And while she was out there, a Harkonnen harvester team rolled in. But since technically that land is part of the House Becca fiefdom, they asked if they could share the spice bed since it was such a rich blow. And the smuggler decided to agree with them, right? And that ended up paying off, believe it or not, even though they are Harkos, which means, they're not really good guys. They're kind of super brutal and have slaves and whatever. But they got attacked by bandits called sandflies. And the sandflies are basically just straight up Marxists. They believe that the great houses take advantage of the people and therefore should all be destroyed. And so the smuggler ended up losing an ornithopter because the ornithopters were patrolling around making sure there was no worm sign. And one of the sandfly guys shot, and I rolled it, and it was like a lot of successes. Shot her ornithopter with a las gun, and I don't mean las rifle like the Harkonnen carry, that pew pew pew. I mean, cut her ornithopter in half, and they called in Mayday, Mayday, but by the time she could respond to the Mayday, they had crashed into some rocky terrain in the Erg. They at least had saw some rocky terrain and went to it. But, both of the guys in the ornithopter died in the crash. That was just an unfortunate thing, Their ornithopter got cut in half and they fell out of the sky into some rocks, dead. So she went running over there, and the Harkonnen leader, who was only known as H224, that was his call sign, volunteered to go with them if she wanted, because the Harkonnen ornithopters all had missile pods on them, right? Another reason it was probably good for them to just go ahead and say, yeah, you can join us, because, the Harko ornithopters were outfitted for straight up war. They were gunships. And plus the spice blow was so huge that, they could afford to share it. But anyway, so yeah, they went to the Rocky Plateau area, And it ended up that the Sandflies had created a whole system to ambush them. They had like hidden areas, and and they had a sniper with a las gun, and like, so one of the Harco ornithopters got hit with a las gun and just blew up. But fortunately, the other Harco ornithopter spotted the sniper with the las gun and unloaded missile pods on that whole region and ended up killing him. And then there was a huge running around battle with everybody using, for the most part, Mala pistols, which are like spring-loaded dart throwers. Except one of the Sandflies had a twin-shot drill gun, which meant that the actual PC who turned her shield on got shot by a twin, a double barrel or two-shot drill shot, and she had to give up her action to try to grab the drill shot bolts and throw them away from her. And she managed it with like 5 successes, which, good, because otherwise on the next action, those drill shots would have went through her shield and she would have just been F'd in the A for sure, right? And then, long story short, she called the House Becca and said they were in the middle of a firefight, and House Becca deployed a ornithopter full of their most elite troops, which are like rank 2. So, but they rolled in and dropped the troops off, who were all, heavily armored and with laser rifles. And they pretty much, they lost a couple guys, but they took out the 12 Sandflies that had been waiting to ambush them. And, they went over their bodies and they found like, a lot of them had like scripture on them, like the Little Red Book or Das Kapital or some shit. So yes, even in the far future in Dune, there are idiots that are still promoting Marxism. And so the Harkonnen, they just left their dead and went their way because they're Harkonnen. They don't give a shit, right? And the smuggler had her carryall come in and pick up the 2 parts of her ornithopter and take it back to her, AO, where she works from. And she's going to try to see if she can repair it because, she don't want to be down an ornithopter, Ornithopters are important because they're your first response to worm sign. If you're out in the middle of the desert and you don't have an ornithopter to spot the worm when it's coming, by the time you feel it, might be too late, because the worms can travel well over 100 kilometers an hour through the sand. And they do that by vibrating in a way that turns the sand into almost a liquid. You know what I mean? So there's not a lot of friction because the sand's so, you know what I mean? So yeah. And the next thing you know, you got this worm coming after you with full intent on eating everything, destroying everything, because, they hate everything. Or if they have a conscience, they would hate everything. I don't think they do really, but so they managed to get out of there before the worm showed up and effed everything up. But so pretty exciting. And how I kept most of the players involved is the smuggler has like, a group of people who work for her. So the people who were playing characters that were not there at the fight, I allowed them to play the NPCs, which were level 1. And that means they need to roll under, I think, a 10 for every challenge. So, not super great, not really whatever, but at least they got to partake in what was going on instead of just sitting there staring like, and it was funny too because the actual player characters actually named the NPCs. That's another thing about Dune is in Dune, you have your player character. That's your character, but your character might have servants, and those are secondary characters. And you might find it necessary for you to sometimes play your secondary character. So let's say you're playing a noble, but you have a secondary character that's a assassin, and your noble decides to send the assassin out to assassinate somebody. Then you don't play your noble. The noble's back at the house doing nothing, right? You play the assassin. And depending on the rank of the assassin, 1 through 4, that determines your target number to do whatever you're trying to do. So it's really simplified like that, I wish I could go to ClearCon one day, but I barely, and by barely, I never even go to tournaments and stuff down here in Florida, and we have plenty. I think Vic is coming down for Huracan or something, or it might have already passed. It may have already passed. I don't even know. And I feel really bad because Big Vic has been like, dude, I'll hook you up. We can hang out, game together, whatever. It'll be fun, all this stuff. Like, and it would be. And I'm sure I would meet people that have listened to the stream, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know. When it actually comes time to pull the trigger and go, I always have an issue with that. But yeah, Dune, the thing I'll tell you, Dungeon Minister, about Dune is a lot of people have the misconception that Dune is a sci-fi game. It's not. I mean, there are sci-fi elements, obviously. I mean, you've got Spacers Guild, etc. But the real strength of Dune, what it's actually really about, is plotting, scheming, investigating, trying to get in good with more powerful houses or make alliances with other houses, etc. Trying to avoid being assassinated while assassinating the people who are trying to assassinate you. So a lot of the game could literally be played as a D&D game, and it wouldn't even change anything. Like if you were to set Dune in a fantasy world, where everything was medieval, it wouldn't actually change the point of the game, which is to do everything you can to empower your house and make Solari so that you can either, one, pay off the emperor if he's given you a fiefdom. 2, you got to keep the Spacers Guild happy, or else, you'll have a hard time with trade and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a lot of stuff like that. Really, that's what the Dune role playing game really is like. It's really not. It like you can't compare it to Traveler. Like in Traveler, you're a sci-fi person on a starship traveling around doing things, right? In Dune, nope. I mean, and the characters one time got called to Catane to talk to Shaddam Dafour. But space travel in Dune is you take your shuttle up to the Highliner, you go inside and dock at whatever berth they tell you to, and then you hang out until the Highliner flips your ass to wherever you're going. So it's not like it's not like Traveler, where you might be the pilot of the ship and you're worried about, okay, let me do the astrogation shit and whatever stuff and check that. No, as the GM, I just tell the players they board the shuttle, and then a few, maybe an hour later, they're docked in the Highliner, and then sometime after that, the navigator folds space, and their shuttle detaches from its berthing point. Of course, this is all being controlled by the Spacing Guild administrators, and your shuttle lands on Catane. And you, as a player, have zero control over any of this shit. It just happens. And now you're on Catane, and you have a meeting with the Emperor Shaddam IV at a certain time. So you entertain yourself until it's time to speak to the Emperor. And that's pretty much it. I mean, so like I said, I have a hard time considering Dune sci-fi because everything that Traveler screams sci-fi about, Dune does not even worry about. Right? It's like, I mean, there are sci-fi things, shields and suspensor belts and stuff, but it doesn't change the plot of the game, which is, basically the Game of Thrones. And when you play the Game of Thrones, you either win or you die, to quote Cersei, who maybe not be someone worth quoting, but hey, it is what it is. So, yeah. So, tables are filling up, man. I've been to Canada before, and I loved it. I think it was Winston or Winchester or whatever, right across the bridge from Michigan. But that's been, oh man, that was back in like the 90s when my sister lived in Detroit. Well, actually, she lived in Lincoln Park, which is like a suburb of Detroit. And yeah, we went across the bridge. And Canada was awesome, man. Back in the 90s, it was like everyone was so nice and awesome. And the drinking age was 18. And all of the nudie bars were like full nude, no nipple tape or anything. So it was like, it was a thing, as a young, not Christian man. It was like a playground, But I've heard that now it's a pain in the ass. You gotta show a passport, and because relations between our countries have not been super cool for a while, and so it's not just so easy as to drive across and tell the Mountie, hey, we're here to get some poutine and drink beer. And the Mountie be all like, okay, you guys be safe, man. Be safe, eh? Yeah, I guess it's just not like that anymore. You can't expect that treatment anymore. All the Canadians are doing their elbows up bullshit. But, their loss, I guess. My wife made a lasagna out of ravioli. And it was pretty good. It was like cheese ravioli instead of the noodles. And what's up, George? So it was like a layer of sauce, a layer of ravioli, a layer of spinach, some cheese, etc., all the way up, and then bake it until it's done. And Yeah, 9/11 effed a lot of crap up. And now you got Mike Myers doing commercials in Canada. Hey, elbows up, eh? And it's like, dude, you live in New York. Shut up. You know? It's like, what are you doing? You live in New York. Your home is New York. You own a home in New York. So showing up on a commercial with your elbows up shit, that is so disingenuous. Because what? You're claiming you're Canadian even though you live in New York? No one's forcing you to live in New York. It's not like you're working or anything in New York. You could take your ass right back to Montreal or wherever you come from. No one would even notice. But that's the game you want to play. That kind of offended me a little bit, you know? SVT 40s are cheaper in Canada. Everything's cheaper in Canada. But yeah, I didn't like when Mike Myers did that because I know for a fact he lives in an apartment in New York. You know, he's got a place in New York City, and he's lived there forever, literally since the first Shrek movie or some shit. And like I said, it's not like the guy's working. He's basically retired. So, I mean, he could move to Saskatchewan. No one would care, you know? No one would care. No one would notice. Everything's way more expensive. You know what? I think I misspoke there, Padre. I do remember Bear telling me that like housing costs and stuff like that are like absolutely insane up there. I guess because all of your houses are owned by boomers, and the boomers want like millions of dollars for a house that should cost a couple $100,000, you know, or something. He explained it to me, and since he actually lives in Canada, I have no reason to doubt him, you know. So, yeah. Food, gas, homes, clothes, books. Oh, I know books because when I sent you the one book, I don't know if I sent you two books. The one book I sent, Burning Wheel, because the company that makes it is in New York, the postage was very reasonable, right? But then I wanted to send a book to you from Free League, and the postage and everything was like twice as much as the book. And even though if I pinched, some pennies and tightened my belt, I could afford it, it's just so like it's just like I'm sitting here like, really? You want me to pay more to send this to somebody than it cost? And that kind of gives me a weird, like, like, yeah, I get a little weird about that, I'm like, I don't know if I can handle that, it seems like somebody is ripping me off. Now, I know it's not you, Padre, but I just felt like somebody somewhere was ripping me off big time. Because why would it cost so much money to send somebody a $50 book? It should not cost that much money to send somebody a $50 book. I mean, if I can buy it and have it sent to America for like $8, then why does it cost so much to send it to Canada? I mean, they're sending it from freaking Sweden or Latvia or somewhere. So, I mean, it's basically the same distance, right? But Modifius is the same way. You buy something from Modifius, They're super happy with you. They send it to you. Shipping is cheap. If you buy enough of stuff, it's just free. You know, they're like, you get free shipping. But Canada, they're like, yeah, uh, we're going to screw you over. There's this VAT tax and this and that and all this crazy shit. And it's like, why? Why does it, But don't worry. If 1% chance it would happen, you guys end up becoming part of America. The good news will be if I want to send you a book, shipping will be reasonable. You know what I mean? So there is bonuses towards all that shit. And one of the bonuses would be I could send you books and stuff for you and the kids. And it would be a reasonable ask instead of, getting taken to the woodshed the way it is now, Yeah, I don't understand that. Is that America doing that to you, or is that you doing that to yourself? Who decided that shipping from the US to Canada would be the mess that it is? And this was before the tariffs or anything. So you can't even blame the tariffs. This is somebody somewhere made a rule to make it hard for me to send stuff to the dungeon minister. Like I remember I sent you those Reaper kobolds. Shit, man. But I was like, the hell with it. I'm going to send him some kobolds. And I sent you the kobolds. And the shipping was crazy. And it's like, I don't understand because I can ship shit to Alaska for less than this. You know what I mean? And from my house to your house is probably no further than my house to California. I ship shit back and forth from California all the time, And very recently, I received a shipment from Poland, and it was like a $12 shipment fee from Poland. So it's like Canada is like a special place where they go out of their way to make it hard for Americans to ship anything there. And vice versa, and vice versa. I got to and vice versa, but still. I don't get it. My phone's ringing, but I'm ignoring it. But I, like Jack Burton, was not put upon this earth to get it. But yeah, it seems really stupid because it's just like if I lived in Michigan and I wanted to send something to wherever, it would still cost like $1 billion. Not really $1 billion. I'm over exaggerating, guys. Don't check me on that. But the biggest problem I had when dealing with you is some shippers do not recognize Canadian post codes. They want 5 numbers. They don't want, they get pissed off if you start putting letters in there. You know what I mean? So I put the postcode for Ontario, and they're all like, nope. Canada hoards maple syrup. Yeah, but from what I've heard, George, Vermont maple syrup is better. But then again, of course, that's what the Vermont people would say. So, they're going to say their maple syrup's better, but I don't know. But yeah, that is definitely something we can bitch about is shipping because it's bullshit. You know, it is definitely bullshit. And I don't know who's at fault, but they need to stop. Whoever it is, whether it's the US or Canada, they need to ease up on, postage. What's up, William? Because it makes no sense. It makes no sense. And that's been a personal gripe of mine for a while now because I've wanted to, them's fighting words. Because there's been a couple of times I really wanted to send Touchberry or Dungeon Minister something or Bear maybe. And it's like, on top of whatever I want to send, the postage is just freaking insane. And it's like, I just can't do this, It's just like, why? Uh-oh. Trey, my wife is in there watching a sassy black lady throwing a fit. Apparently it has something to do with like being in court. Okay, so this goes. I am gluing the engines back onto a United Planetary Federation light cruiser because somehow they snapped off because they're old and lead. So I need to glue them on and then make sure they got a good coverage of primer to protect them. But it's not all international shipping, Shadow. That's what tweaks me out. Like I've ordered things from Ukraine. I've ordered things from Russia. I've got things coming in the mail from Spain. And the shipping cost is very reasonable. Like a tenth of what it is to ship something to Canada. So I don't know. Our neighbors to the north, I don't know what they're doing, but they need to get that postage thing under. But like I was saying, if they end up one day becoming American, then at least, if I'm still alive and Dungeon Minister's still rocking it out up there, I will at least then be able to send different books and stuff to him without having to pay, $75 in shipping. Because that's just like so unbelievable, right? Like you try to send a package up there and they want you to measure the freaking how big it is, how many inches or whatever crossed, and this and that, and how much does it weigh, and this. It's like you got to play like 20 questions if you want to ship something up there too, because if you're trying to use a shipping company, right? Because they're going to ask you like everything about the thing you're shipping. And I'm like, it's a book, it's 11 by 8 by 2. That shouldn't be an issue, right? But yeah, but these shipping things were way before the tariffs. And also the last thing I heard about it, because I don't follow it all the time, but I do occasionally peek in to see what's going on around the world. Carney is pretty much bent the knee. Canada is going to stop with their supposedly reciprocal tariffs, and they're going to play ball. Carney did try to go to Mexico, like he was going to set up some kind of alliance against the U.S. Yeah, like that's going to work, you know. And the answer was no, it didn't work. Mexico threw his ass under the bus because Mexico don't give a shit about Canada, you know. Now they are a little mad at us right now because we like wiped out a bunch of their cartel guys. I think 300 of them, but they'll get over it. But yeah, Carney has completely capitulated to Trump, which everyone knew he would, because you know the fact that he got elected on I'll stand up to Trump. It's like, you know, no disrespect to any Canadians listening. Seriously, no disrespect. I love you guys. But Canada is not ever going to stand up and defeat America. And I understand that I'm only an American by random chance, blah, blah, blah. I get it, right? I'm not trying to make you feel bad. It's just by random chance or by choice in some of, you know, a couple of your cases, you live in a country that has a tiny population and produces nothing that America actually needs. That's the big problem for Canada. Is Canada produces nothing that we actually need. Anything we buy from Canada, it's just cause. I mean, we can produce lumber, metals, steel, etc. in the United States. No problem, you know, no problem at all. So, you know, the idea that Carney thought he was going to buck up, it's just like, dude, really? And also against Trump, who, if Carney wanted to deal with Trump, he should have been glazing him, you know, talking about Trump, you're the best ever. I hear you've got like a giant wang. All the women love you. Canada loves you and I love you. If he had done that, shit, Canada would have got a great deal. Trump would have been talking about how much he loves Canada. He's going to go up and visit Montreal and all that shit because people don't understand how to deal with Trump. You have to flatter him, make him feel like, you know, he's in charge, and then you can get shit your way. But if you buck up at him and act like you want to fight, well, then you get the horns. And it's nobody's fault but the idiots that think it's a good idea to freaking challenge the 800-pound gorilla in the room. You know, China thought they'd buck up. Now look at them. They're falling apart. The EU is completely capitulated. Japan, Israel, I mean, basically the rest of the world. But Canada wanted to be, you know, I don't know what in the hell they wanted to be. And then the EU didn't even invite Carney to their little party to decide what we'll do with Ukraine. So that was a thing too, because Carney was talking about forming a closer relationship with England and the EU. The EU don't even read Canada as like a country. You know, it's like they give a shit about anything happening in the Great White North. They don't. You know? They don't even respect Canada, like I said, enough to invite them to a meeting. So, yeah. You know, it is what it is. By the grace of God, I live in America, and America is the world power. Beyond a shadow of a doubt. Some people wish China would be the world power. They're not. I mean, those idiots recently trying to F around with Filipino fishing ships crashed 2 of their own destroyers into each other, which killed a couple of sailors, and then they had to limp their wrecked boats home. That's China, you know? Or when they wanted to mess with us and they sent one of their Oscar-class submarines to, like, you know, track a carrier group. But the Oscar-class submarine, which was made by Russia back in the 50s, has an incredibly super loud diesel engine. It's a diesel electric submarine, which meant that all of our ships detected their submarine before it got within huh. The package you sent Dungeon Minister was very cheap. I tried to send him a copy of the Conan 2-20 game, and it was like $75, which is like twice what the book cost. And that's why I didn't spend it, because the cheap bastard in me, because I can be cheap, was like, no way I'm paying postage twice the amount of the thing I'm sending. Maybe it's my upbringing, guys. Maybe the Hebrew jumped in there. Well, I'm not Hebrew, but culturally. And I was just like, nope, not doing it. Unless I can get a deal on this, it's not happening. It was like, I want to ship shit to the Dungeon Minister, and I demand wholesale, not retail. I'm not buying anything retail. It's got to be wholesale, right? And unfortunately, that doesn't work with Canadian postage. They don't care. So that is what happened, though. I just got real cheap because I was like, no. On general principle, I refuse to send something somewhere where it's going to cost twice as much in shipping as the thing. Just in general principle, I'm like, nothing to do with who I was trying to send it to. Nothing but love. But, I have limits that I can stand. And if you want to blame somebody, blame my Jewish dad. We can be like, I just can't do that. Just not happening. Right? Since, he's the one that raised me. Yeah, we can blame him. That sounds good, right? We'll blame him. He raised me. So whatever happened, we'll just say it's his fault. And that'll be good, right? Right. Shadow and Sun is trying to jump in on this stream. Look at this guy. What are you laughing about?
You sent me the link. Or at least you posted the link as soon as I showed up. So I felt obligated, not obligated, honored to be here.
Invited. Shadow, you know that you are one of my favorite people to have on this stream.
I appreciate that. Right back at you. I wish you'd come and join my show every once in a while, but
I will. I just need to know when it is.
I've had the same schedule for about 3 years now.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean I remember it.
I remember your schedule. It's pretty easy. It's every Monday through Friday, from the time you wake up till about 2.
Here's the thing, Shadow. And I've been really open with you about my situation, right?
Yeah.
And part of my treatment F's my memory straight up.
Yeah.
So I can remember all the things I ever did when I was a little kid, but I'll forget what I did 2 hours ago.
You're not the only one. I think it's called getting old.
Well, plus I'm on a lot of, let's just say this veteran is medicated for your safety.
Okay.
I mean, I saw a sign that said that, and I almost bought it. But yes,
we do live over 1,000 miles away. Unless you're going to start sending me Kaczynski style packages, I think I'm okay.
I guess if I move into the middle of the freaking forest somewhere in the Midwest, you got to start worrying. Like if I just drop off the radar.
So anytime you're in Kentucky, check my boxes to see if they're ticking.
Never.
Yeah.
I consider you to be a friend.
Yeah, and that's
Which
cowardly
makes
shit.
you like 1 out of 6 people, maybe.
I appreciate that. That means a lot. You
Well, I
know,
mean, you've always been a bro for like years now.
you and your brother are my wife gives me a lot of shit for hanging out on the internet, and I'm like, you know what? If the only people I ever met were you and Hungar, uh, it would be absolutely worth it. Jackie misses you guys terribly, but he's so freaking busy. Oh, you have
Well,
no
he's
idea.
he's a young man and he's got a life.
Yeah, but he's piling stuff on to the extreme. Let me give you an example. This year, he is part of the school newspaper. He's taking 2 different music lessons, trumpet and piano. He's doing JROTC.
Nice.
He's taken all AP classes.
Maybe he'll join the army and they'll put him in the 1st Infantry Regiment, which is the band.
He thought about it, but I think he's decided against going into the military, mostly because of his mom's urgings, because she's terrified that if he was in the Air Force, he'd be the first one on the front lines, not understanding that's not at all how it works.
That's not how the Air Force works.
Right? I told him he couldn't get a safer job unless it was working for the post office.
Yeah, like the Air Force, if you're not an officer, chances of you being anywhere near a firefight are very slim. If you're an officer, though, I mean, you might be in a fighter jet.
That's what he wanted to do, was fly. And
Of course. It's like the most awesome job any person can have, fighter pilot.
and even if he only did a couple of years and checked out, he would be able to write his own ticket, flying for any of the big companies or whatever. But I think he's going to go into teaching, which is an admirable profession, but unfortunately, it'll break him. He will have to compromise his morals and his ethics in ways he can't even imagine, in order to.
He might. Let's hope that he gets around that, and he could end up being that one special teacher for a student that puts that student on the right path.
Only if he goes completely, to teaching, religious colleges and things like that. But going through the college system alone will require him to keep his lip buttoned and pretend to be someone he's not.
Maybe. Things are changing, man. Things are changing.
We got 3 years to make those changes. Afterwards, all bets are off. I
don't think so. I mean, I'm gonna be a whatever it's called, optimist
hopeful.
here.
Yeah,
I am willing to bet just about anything that after this next 3 years, you're going to see 4 years of Vance or Marco Rubio or both of them on the same ticket. And I think they will beat anyone the Democrats throw out there in a walk. It won't even be close.
Maybe. But see, I don't look.
This is all maybe. I can't prove any of it, but
I don't look at it.
My opinion.
I don't look at it like red versus blue. I look at it, God versus Satan, and I know certain things have to happen before, other things happen.
Right.
The Book of Revelations, and I know that it's only going to get way worse before it gets better. And my son's always teasing me, every generation thinks they're in the end times. Well, I've never seen, so many of the key points that are supposed to happen in the past. They're happening in real time, and a couple more of those things happen, and we're there. You know what I mean?
Well, if the Padre's in here, maybe he can put your mind at ease or back up what you're saying.
I'm not worried about it for my own sake. I'm worried about it for his sake, because he is so completely unequipped to deal with one night in the woods, let alone the horrors that would happen. If he had to live through that. I'm cruising up on 60. If I'm lucky, I got another 10 in me.
Turns out I'm a year younger than I thought I was.
I saw that the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and I actually argued with the doctor about it for a minute, and he pulled up the.
How well did that go?
it didn't go well because he said, "You were born in 71, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "You're 54." I was like, and then I was like, "Why did I think I was 55 all this time?" And he's like, "I have no idea, Jimmy." Of course, I was sitting there in front of him wearing my Captain Kirk shirt. And he retired from the Navy as lieutenant colonel, or lieutenant commander, right? So I come rolling in there and we start talking. I was like, I'm the same rank as you now, right? He said, no, you're a lieutenant commander according to the stripes on your sleeve, right? I said, true, but I'm in command of a ship. And I'm a line officer, which makes it where you and I, even though we're the same rank, you have to call me captain.
Real quick, thanks, Dungeon Minister. I'll have to go check that video out. What ship are you in command of?
The USS Enterprise.
Oh, okay.
1701.
Okay.
Did you not hear me? I was wearing my Captain Kirk shirt.
Oh yeah. But I didn't equate that. I thought you actually bought a boat.
No.
Okay.
But I did actually buy an official Captain Kirk prop.
You know what? Funny you should mention that. Because of you, I started watching some Star Trek old original series Star Trek clips, and that got me to thinking. The boys never seen Star Trek, and I can't find it without paying. Going behind a paywall. I'm gonna go look around on the internet, see what I can find, and I found season 1 for $15. Right in a big yellow plastic box. It's supposed to be a tricorder. It's like that ain't no tricorder I grew up with, but it came with a prop communicator from the
Nice.
originals and a tricorder from the Next Generation, which was kind of an okay tricorder. It made a little more sense. $15 plus $5 shipping. And the best part about it, it's in Sacramento or San Francisco, which means it'll be here by the end of the week, and I
Right.
can start throwing on some old school Star Trek goodness. Because I tried to get the boy to watch it. We watched the first half of the pilot. He was getting into it. He was younger, and then things happened, and we just forgot about it. And I'm like, the only Trek I can really stomach is the original series and Enterprise. Everything else is really, really woke to me. I see it. I just my woke radar is just like, they're trying to indoctrinate him right there and there and there and there. And I watched the entire
And
Next
let me
Generation.
tell you what's funny is original Trek, by modern standards, some people could say is very woke because it had the first interracial kiss. It had like a very
I really don't
crew,
see that's
but
that. I don't
they
see that
did
as
they
woke.
didn't make it feel that way.
I don't see it as woke as just common sense. We all got to get along on this rock, So
Yeah, that's
so
kind of what
you.
I'm saying. They didn't make it feel like they were preaching at you all the
Oh,
time.
they absolutely were, but it was in not only an acceptable but a like good alignment way. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
This is the way the world should be. It wasn't about some of the other issues. It wasn't like when Next Generation had the entire universe all dropped down to warp 5.5 to coincide with our speed limit laws and Sammy Hagar's great tune, to save the environment, which was what 40 years ago, and nothing's changed. The ice caps
yeah.
aren't melting.
According to all that, we're all supposed to be dead anyway.
Right. Every politician with who can afford it owns beachfront property, not worrying about the rising ocean levels, etc., etc. More
Yeah,
horse.
we were supposed to die from like nuclear winter or some shit like 20 years ago.
Yeah, fear
So
porn. Not a
it's
fan.
like whatever. Come on.
Not a fan. Not a fan of the doom scrolling and all that. I not not interested. I've lived half my life in a fantasy world. I think I could live the rest of it. Uh,
I'm
same
just saying that's what they used to say.
Oh yeah, yeah. They
And
just
it's like the Jehovah's Witness who are constantly saying that their prophet's come back, but he never does. So every time the time comes, they push it.
well, they can say that about us, but last time I checked, They are literally trying to put chips in our hands and refusing us the ability to buy and sell without that little, ID tracker.
Hmm. Yeah, but luckily we live in a country where you have civil rights,
But we think we do.
and I don't think that'll ever happen
I think it
here.
will when people like us are gone and we can't talk about it anymore. And,
Uh,
and the other generations, the younger generations, are so addicted to their phones and their internet that they'll do whatever they're told so they can get their next dopamine hits and keep watching their.
See, yeah, if anybody's getting chips put anywhere, it's most likely that they volunteer for it.
At first. But then when they're the
Because they'll be
majority.
like, hey, if you get this chip, then you can go shopping at the store and you don't have to carry a credit card. You just walk in, grab your stuff, and walk out, and blah, blah, blah. They'll do what they did with Alexis,
Hmm.
because back in the 50s, everyone was so worried about having, someone in their home listening in on them. And now we go out of our way to buy products that listen in on us. It's like, it's just society, man. But I mean, until my priest tells me I need to start, doing something, I'm just going to keep living life.
Yeah, yeah. Like
Because,
the minister says here, but of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. Right. We were given some clues though, and yes, we are tracked through our phones and everything else. But when they, like what they did with your truckers, shutting down their banks, that was like, in my opinion, a test run to see how people would handle that kind of overreach of power when that's more common and
yeah, but you
prevalent.
seen what Trump did. He called the heads of those banks in and gave them a ration of shit and told them they can't do that anymore.
Well, yeah, they'll just everything just keeps getting pushed back. But I saw or I have seen several videos of grocery stores that have the thing where you wave your hand and show your chip to come into the store. When that starts taking off and people like it, you know, we're kind of screwed.
Well, we aren't.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
Yeah.
we're not screwed, but
No.
they might be
Yeah. I
because
just, I just, I just worry because I see my son and his generation is based as they are, which is unbelievable. But it skips a generation, that kind of thing. So I got lucky. But when I also see how weak they are when it comes to the internet and things like that, I mean, my son, in other than school books that he had to read, has yet to read, but like maybe 3 or 4 actual books cover to cover. That blows my mind. I've read tens of thousands of books in my lifetime.
well, I mean, now you don't have to read anything you want to find out. You can
Nice touch,
find out.
Mister. Well, see, I also personally believe that the true powers are people will never know their names, and when those people make a decision, it goes down the chain
I
of
think
command
you
until.
worry too much, man.
I was born a prepper. Can't help it. My
Oh,
old man.
prepping is not bad. I'm not saying it would be bad to. I mean, I make sure we have stuff. Well, my wife does actually. But what I'm saying is, there's a lot of things in life you can't control,
That's
and
why I wear the
you'd be
Serenity
a
Prayer.
lot happier
Actually,
if
my
you
copy
just
needs cleaning, but that's why the Serenity Prayer is usually around my neck because there's a whole lot of crap I worry about that I can't do a thing about. But
exactly. You'd be a lot happier if you would just chill out.
you're raising a great kid there, Father. My boy is he's really smart and he's learned from a lot of smarter people than me through the internet, and he thinks he can just keep doing that. And he has read a couple of books, strange books, Blood Meridian, for example. I'm like, you're kidding me. Why would that be one of the? Do you have any idea what that's going to do to you? One of the first books I ever read was Edgar Allan Poe, The Complete Works, in kindergarten. So that might explain a few things. and those things do, color the rest of our existence here on Earth in how we react. We absorb these things early on, and they stick with us. Soylent Green, Silent Running, Rollerball. Those three movies were ingrained into my head at a very young age, and so I've always been highly suspicious of all governments.
When I was a little kid, before I
He,
converted to Judaism, I used to carry around one of those little New Testaments.
Mhm.
So I guess I was about 5. And my nickname amongst certain members of my family was the preacher.
Oh yeah.
Because, and those little New Testaments like you could
Mhm.
find in a phone booth or
Sure,
whatever way back in the
sure.
day. Oh, I
We've
had
got
one of
we have a
those.
dozen here.
And I was obsessed with Revelation.
Yep.
But then I got over it, thank God. Uh,
I
and
I,
now
I
I
I used to
barely
get to
even
that
look
point.
into Revelation because it's like, I don't know. That's not shit I can do anything about. So,
Well, for me, it's a happy ending, and I'm a sucker for a happy ending. Yes, Dungeon Minister, he's the smartest person I've ever met when it comes to a lot of things.
he is a bright kid. That is a bright kid for
But
real.
the things he does not know and will never understand blow my mind. He gets that from his mom. If you were to drop him downtown in L.A. with $2, I'd never see him again. He wouldn't make it home. You know what I mean? Uh,
Well, that's probably true of me too, though.
nope. I would make it home with more money in my pocket than I started. That's for damn sure.
See, but I'm saying me, if you drop me in the middle of LA with $2, I'd probably end up being a chalk outline somewhere, because I don't know
It's a rough.
anything about all that shit.
It's a rough place. It sucks. It is a cesspit, but I didn't grow up there. But
I mean, dude,
spent a lot of
you're gonna drop somebody into the center of Compton or some shit. It's like, but I just wouldn't worry about it, man.
Yeah, I'm trying not to. I'm trying not to. That's why I play these games, so I can escape the crap that
And the
runs
Padres are
through my
100%
head.
right. Uh, um, no one knows, no one will know. So, yeah,
Well, it,
that's about the Bible I had. And I was constantly preaching to the adults about all the things they were doing bad.
yeah,
And man, they weren't
it's
liking it. And they would just be like, oh, here comes the preacher again.
it's
And
funny when you're that
eventually
age,
that
'cause I did the same thing. I carried my New Testament into school every day, and I would try to read it, whenever I got a chance. But
those were different times, though.
yeah,
Um,
now you'd literally get beat up, curb
yeah,
stomped.
the little
You'd be
red
the
book.
teachers doing it.
The little red book has come up in my Dune game because the Sandflies organization are basically Marxists. Their leader is telling all the Dune men, which are the guys that work on harvesters and shit, that they should quit, join the Sandflies, and then attack the harvesters because the working man should profit from the means of production, not the rich houses. And
And
to
without
that
the rich
end, last
houses, you'd never
night,
have any industry.
yeah, well, to that end, last night they ambushed a harvester that belonged to one of my players and destroyed one of her ornithopters. And then it turned into a big firefight. And, but fortunately, she was close enough to the headquarters of House Becca, their home, their fiefdom, that they loaded a ornithopter up with their best trained soldiers and whipped ass out there and cleaned them up. The only thing they were upset
Take
about
care, Dungeon
is,
Minister. Good seeing you again. I'll tell Jackie you said hi.
yeah, yeah. Take care, bro. Um the one bad thing is the one sandfly that had the las gun, which is not a las rifle, but an actual las gun, which means it fires a continuous beam of laser.
Right,
Um,
like a cutting beam.
yeah, he got whacked by an ornithopter with missile pods, so his las gun got completely racked. And the players were like, "Damn, I would like to have had one of those, right?" But
Yeah, who wouldn't, right?
in other news, though, the family that is the arch nemesis to their family for like 500 years has sent agents to Airkeen, and they're trying to buddy up with different houses and organizations so that they can screw over House Becca at some point. Their House Najara. And they've already made allies with House starts with an M. House Martoni. So, you know, fortunately, they can't just all gang up and attack the House Becca compound because the Emperor has declared that Arrakis is a war of assassins. So the rules of Canley must be obeyed. But if they can manipulate a member of House Becca into doing something shitty,
What's
they
up, Crap?
can they can set up a duel. You know what I mean? To try to kill somebody. And it's just a matter of if they're all at the same party because, you know, nobles.
Yeah.
And one of them manages to, you know, instigate a fight, then they can call Canley and we'll see who wins. I mean,
Do you happen to know where that word comes from?
Canley?
Yeah.
I don't know where that word comes from, but I do know in the book they say, or in the ancient tongue, vendetta.
Mm-hmm. Which makes me think maybe Italian?
It could be. Like he says, in the ancient tongue, vendetta. But now it's Canley. But then again, I mean, the imperial language is like a mix of a lot of different languages. And then some houses still speak certain ethnic languages, but they've drifted. So you might run into a house that speaks German, but the German has drifted so far away from what we would recognize as German that, you know.
I'm currently reading a book. I got to mention to Dungeon Minister, Hero's Journey. It's a
Yeah,
post-apocalyptic.
I've read it.
Oh,
Oh
okay.
no, that you're talking about something different.
Yeah. It's a post-apocalyptic story set in Canada, and you know because it's 5,000 years in the future, the author had to, misspell everything, as they would in the future, and it's a pretty good book, but it got me to thinking, how things would change and how, like in Dune, there's, I always in the early days I thought Ix was actually Pluto, but probably
No,
not.
nope.
Ninth planet,
Ix,
that sort of
which
thing.
is ran by House Veneer, I think, or Vernier, um, used to be called Nine.
Right. That's why I thought it was, Pluto, but that was I read Dune when I was 17, so you can
Yeah,
so 40
yeah.
years ago when Pluto was still a planet and we didn't know much about it. I thought
Pluto
that
will always be a planet to me.
Right, right. Uh, and I just thought that maybe it's just him trying to be clever. It's just Pluto and everything's changed, blah blah blah. But clearly it's not. Did you ever play the Dune collectible card game?
Yes. I
I, I
played the
sent
Racing Guild and I was pretty much unbeatable.
I sent Bear a couple of starter decks that I never got to play it.
Well,
Yes, it is, Jas. It's actually pretty good. I'm reviewing it with the book club from the Appendix N book club this week. So I just got it in the mail over the weekend. I started reading it. It's pretty good. It's not bad. But I sent Bear those starter decks, and lo and behold, I was looking through my cards because I'm trying to get. I want to play the Illuminati card game. You remember this
yeah.
one? And I came across these cards, the Pentagon, and then Terrorist Nuke from the early '90s. Very prophetic in a weird way. And uh, I came across a big stack of Dune, the collectible card game cards. So I was thinking about surprising Bear with them. Good thing he's not here or watching. Maybe he's watching because I sent him the starter decks, and I'm like, well, I
He's
no
probably
longer
at work.
I no longer have the rule book for Dune, so these are useless to me. But I found out that I don't have a rule book for the Illuminati card game, which I'm showing Jackie because I think he'd get a kick out of it because he's into all that weird conspiracy crap. Can't imagine where he gets that from.
You might be able to find. Okay, catch you later, William. You
Take
might be
care,
able to
William.
find it online.
I looked, and I have to go through hundreds and hundreds of pages of the newer rules and the newer versions that came out. Hey, what's up, Holy Diver? Um, and I just couldn't find it. And I really just want one of the original rule books that came in the starter deck. That way I could just play it as it was intended without all the nonsense that comes, after any card game comes out. 5 minutes later, there's a whole new book of rules, things that are banned, no longer allowed, that whole nonsense. Like we're
Yeah, I
playing with.
don't think that was a thing in Illuminati because I remember one time I bought the one with everything Illuminati box, and it was just every card in one box.
I would kill for one of those. Maybe not kill because I could afford it, but like you, I'm kind of cheap when it comes to certain things. And a complete box set of those goes for anywhere from $300 to $1,000, depending on
Yeah,
condition.
I'm that guy that will buy the cheapest T-shirts in the freaking Walmart, and then drop $1,000 on Warhammer shit.
Yep, yep, same
Not
here.
anymore, but that's who I used to be. That
Well,
was
yeah, when it comes to certain aspects of my wardrobe, like if I'm going to church, not so much. But if I'm going to be on the show, uh, a T-shirt says it all.
yeah.
It's a little bit of free advertising. Today I'm wearing my Blue Oyster Cult T-shirt because they are my favorite band. So I don't
As
I
we
don't
all
feel like
know.
I don't think I'm uh, telling anybody anything they don't already know. But on occasion, I'll be at a store or something. It's like, oh, hey, I remember that album. Or I don't know if I ever told you I wore my Hungar T-shirt to Walmart, and I was just walking through the doors, and this guy from another country was with a group of people, and they were leaving the store, and he saw the shirt. He goes, "Is that you?" Hungar and I do not look anything alike.
The shirt I'm currently wearing is about 20 years old, and you can't see the stuff on it, but it's from the Florida State Fire College.
I've got another Blue Oyster Cult shirt like that, and I've got a Rush Signals concert shirt that I probably will never fit into again, but it is so thin as to almost not be actually
A
on the
shirt.
material plane. On the material plane, I mean, it's literally like tissues. Kleenex are have more material to them than this T-shirt. Uh, but I'm never going to get rid of it. I'm never going to wear it, but I'm never going to get rid of it because it was good times. I every once in a while when I see it, like that was a great concert. Golden Earring blew Rush away in energy and other things. A big Rush fan up until probably about Roll the Bones. It was from that point I couldn't stomach them anymore, and their just whiny preachiness. Just like, yeah, I'm done. I'm done. It was a good ride. Thanks, Getty. Thanks, Neo. Thanks, Alex. But I'm out.
That's a big ship.
Which one is that?
That's the Sathar battleship. That thing
Okay,
is
yeah.
like 6 inches long.
I've got a couple of those. I've got two sealed boxes of the ships, plus a whole bunch of extras. You know who made big ships? Two companies. I think it was Mongoose. Whoever made the Babylon 5 ships. God, some of those are massive. You could literally kill somebody with one of them. And
Well, I mean, if you ever got your hands on any of the Battlefleet Gothic ships,
I do. I have all the capitals.
a Battlefleet Gothic battleship, Imperial battleship, that thing is huge.
Yeah, I did a video on the capital ships about a year ago. I've got the Emperor's ship. I've got the Necron. The
See, look,
as a matter of fact, oops, you probably recognize this.
yeah, that's the Blackstone Fortress.
Yeah, I'm missing a piece. I can't find the very tip top of it. It got lost somewhere. I know I have it, but I can't find it. And then I've got the big Eldar ship. But you should check out Superior Models or Monday Night Productions. They make some ships that are easily 8 inches long, and you can still get them in like pewter, but they also make them in resin, which are much cheaper. Which is one of the very first real Starship games called I think it was Starfleet Wars. Had nothing to do with Star Trek at all. How they got away with it? Well, it was 1979, and nobody cared. But there's some pretty interesting ships if you ever need, like new aliens or new things. Some of them are very
That's how I used to be crafting gamer, 100%. To be like, I wouldn't buy nothing. I'd be living off of ramen, freaking, and Czech cola, and just like,
Czech cola.
yeah, it's a brand of soda that you can only get at like Publix or Winn Dixie.
Oh, okay. I thought you had it imported from Europe because it was so cheap.
Oh no, it's not Czechoslovakian soda.
Yeah, I figured.
It's
It just sounds funny my way.
and they basically, it's just super cheap. That's just what it is. Like, a 12-pack was like $2 or something. It ended up being like a quarter a piece.
I
Hey,
can't
what's up, Daniel Barry?
I can't really credit it to being cheap. More my desire to continue breathing. I drink this new thing. You might have heard of it. It's called water. It's kind of free. So
Well, yeah. I drink a lot of water now.
although I did invest in a crunchy ice machine, so now I drink even more because it's even better.
And I don't actually drink any sugary drinks at all.
Good for you. Good for you. That sugar is the devil.
Yeah, well, yeah. But I think it's a Warhammer thing. Like an old school Warhammer fantasy, they would always paint the weapons, or the haft of the weapon at least, red.
Yeah.
So you would have like a goblin spearman, and regardless of how the goblin was painted, the haft of his spear would be red. And as a result, I end up painting the turrets on these cruisers red.
Well, they go faster.
Quite a bit. Yep, Orcs are the only fleet I don't own for Battlefleet Gothic.
I don't even remember what the orc ship looked like, to be honest.
Well, they got multiple. You've got the Orc
Yeah, but I only bought the
Killer
capital.
Cruiser. Yeah, the Kill Cruiser. Anyway, the Orcs are all about boarding you and just ripping your ass apart.
Yeah.
That's pretty much kind of the Orc thing. I'm going to board your ship and kill everybody. And a lot of times that's exactly what happens.
So basically, Firefly Reavers, but with green skin.
Pretty much. They do have some ships that can throw rocks at you, which sucks. It basically means because in 40K, orcs have the highest level of technology when it comes to like gravitics and
Force
fields and shit like that. So they do have ships that can literally launch asteroids at you.
Well, the whole mass driver concept is actually, very pragmatic. You're in space. There's free rocks,
and that's what the orcs do.
Instead of carrying missile bays full of nuclear warheads, come up with a weapon that just latches on, tractor beam style, and then just chucks rocks at you all day.
With the meteorite you encounter is got a high percentage of iron in it, it's perfect.
Well, it could be made out of ice cream if it's at the right speed.
No. The reason iron is perfect is because then it's magnetic.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which means that your mass driver can actually grab it and use magnetism to shoot it.
It's not relying on some non-existent, technology. It's just using good old-fashioned
magnetism. It's just magnetism. That's how mass drivers work. In Expanse, most of their main guns were mass drivers, but they didn't shoot asteroids at each other. They shot like actual metal rods.
Yeah.
And I remember in one episode of The Expanse, the ship they're on got shot through with a mass driver, and they had to seal the hole.
Is that the show with Seth MacFarlane?
No.
Okay.
And the one guy just grabbed a phone book and put it over the hole, while the other guys grabbed the actual hull patch kit, which like opened up, and it was like an aluminum sheet with the freaking caulk gun, and you sprayed the caulk all around the sheet, to seal it. And then when the guy moved the book, they just put that on. And the thing with The Expanse is, in addition to the writers who were writing the story, they had hired a bunch of physics guys. So everything in The Expanse worked according to physics. So if a hole got shot through a ship you were in, you didn't get sucked out of the hole.
So a sci-fi show that did its due diligence. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Instead of like Star Trek, and they just got lucky.
Right. And the ship that they spent most of their time on had like an atomic drive, and almost all of the weapons were missiles, drones. That's why the ship, which looked very much like that black and yellow one of mine, had bays that opened up that had rapid fire PDF weapons and shit like that.
Oh, hey, I saw something. I should have sent it to you. I just put it in my general. There's this guy who I don't know if he created them or what, or he's just showing them off. But he was showing off these 3D printed, I'm going to call them action figures, but they're in 1/60 scale. So, not really big. I mean, the miniature figure was 3 centimeters tall, right?
Right.
Fully articulated. And they put it in a like a suit of like power armor. It's all separate individual pieces that you put on the little tiny action figure, and when you're done, it looks like a mech or whatever. And I was thinking, if you can print 3D action figures that are 3 centimeters tall and they're fully articulated. I mean, feet, knees, ankles, hands, the whole bit, right? I bet you could start making some game miniatures that instead of being monoposed, or very limited posability, you could literally have miniatures that you could put in any freaking position and attach and slap on any weapons and gear, etc. Print the crap all yourself for a nominal fee instead of having, miniatures that are, you know, always that exact thing. You know what I mean? You could suddenly have an entire line of wargaming, whether they be mechs or, grunts or whatever, that are always changing.
Well, one of the reasons I ended up buying about 80% of the bodies for my Blood Angels from Ukraine is first off, they offered Mark III Space Marine armor in true scale,
Okay.
which you couldn't get at the time. And secondly, they had a wide range of poses.
Hmm.
So basically, I was just buying the body.
Okay.
And because I already had the heads, arms, shoulder pads, everything else, right? So, yeah.
Well, what do you
Because
think? Do you think something like that would, posable game miniatures? Do you think that would have a market?
I don't know if they would be too fragile or if anyone would care enough about it.
Because
I mean, it's a neat thing, but it's like,
I'll show you the video because they don't look all that fragile, and I guess it depends on what you print them with and what kind of what how the
yeah, what
articulation
resin?
what the articulation is, how it works.
But the
Uh,
biggest problem is like, and a lot of people will tell you this, the biggest complaint of game miniatures right now is that they're too complex. And a lot of gamers are missing the good old days of the mid to late 90s Space Marine, which
mhm.
basically had no decoration at all. It's just a
Right.
guy in power armor.
Yeah.
And now every Space Marine has got like all this detail on it, and people are just like,
Yeah. I'm
you
working on
know,
a squad of Gray Knights.
yeah. Well, Grey Knights, I guess, should have a bunch of shit on them.
Yeah, but there's like you can't even see the armor through the decoration as you put it. They're
Right.
just
But old school tactical Marines, I mean, at best, you might give the sergeant a purity seal or something. I mean, it really shouldn't be the way they've done them. But now they've done them and they're all monopose and they're so detailed that, a lot of people are just like, I hate these figures, you know? I mean, like if you go to that game, I think it's just the miniatures page, they call it. There's people on there who are just literally being like, why is this run of the mill tactical Marine got so many details on it? I mean, he's wearing Mark 9 or 10 armor, and it's just like there's like all this shit all over him. And it's like, why? You know? And that's what they've done. I mean, back in the day, you bought your Mark, I think they were, what were they? Mark 9? The ones that look kind of like Darth Vader in the face.
Uh-huh.
And unless you added a lot of decoration to them, they were plain as hell. It was just, it's just a guy in his smooth Space Marine stuff with his gun. And if you wanted to add a holster, you could. And if you wanted to add a purity cell, you could. Or seal, but you didn't have to.
Knife.
Anyway, I better get out here. It's 3.5 hours.
Okay, no problem.
I told my wife I'd be back in 2. And then, but I got a lot painted. I mean, not that anybody really gives a shit since it's for a game that's long dead. But
there's still people out there.
The next time I visit my brother, we may play it.
What is it? Nighthawks? Is that what it was?
Hungar.
Nighthawks.
and I loved Star Frontiers. And we played the actual, back before I had miniatures, we played the battles with the chits
They came in Nighthawks.
that came in Nighthawks, right? So this could be a great little throw down the star map table cover and just put some figures on it. And
That was the great thing back in the day. They they gave you everything you needed, and were just happy to get it out to you, instead of thinking, oh well, we better you know separate this and make them pay for this separately, and all that nonsense. Nighthawks was and Star Frontiers was.
yeah, just even Star Frontiers came with a whole page of chits for all the different kinds of characters, vehicles. It come with a map of a city, a map of a spaceport, a map of a desert world, like all these maps. I mean, so whether you had miniatures or not, you had all of the chits that could
Right out
represent
of the box.
your characters, and you could like keep track of combats and everything like that, or not if you didn't want to. I mean, you could be like, I'm not bothering with this shit, but that's just the way it was. You could do your thing, right? And a lot of modern games, not all, but a lot have forgotten that. Now, Free League, I can tell you right now, and Modifius have not forgotten that. I bought the Dune starter set. That thing comes with so much content that I mean, it's nuts. It comes with like charts on how to do duels and how to do spice harvesting and who's who and what's what, and like, I mean, it's just a great box set for a starter set.
Well, it should be.
And if you buy like well, the rest of it, you buy the Conan book, you just get the book in the PDF. But there was a lot of things that they put out where you got a ton of stuff. And we'll see what Monolith does with Conan the Hyborian Age. I mean, it doesn't look horrible, but
That's the board game, right?
no, it's a role-playing game.
I thought they had.
Monolith puts out the board game, but they like a year ago got full rights to the role-playing game too,
Cool.
because the R.E. Howard Foundation got really pissed off at Modifius for trying to add martial arts to their Eastern book, which is Katai.
Uh-huh.
So, and apparently, according to whatever, the R.E. Howard Foundation is really hardcore about if you do something that's not up to snuff with the R.E. Howard thing, they'll take the rights from you in a second. And Modifius, it was two main things. One was when they came out with the books from the South about the Southern kingdoms,
Okay.
they preface the book with this big apology. And so that just pissed people off. Like, what are you apologizing for? What they were apologizing for is the fact that the Darfar clans a lot of the times are cannibals. And they're like, you can't have black people doing anything bad, right? But that pissed the R.E. Howard people off because they're like, hey, you can't,
That was
you can't
canon.
just be doing
What are you
this
gonna do?
shit. It is what it is. And
I suspected it had something to do with, trying to apply modern sensibilities or nonsense
yeah.
to.
Well, basically, the R.E. Howard group were like, we're not going to let a company that thinks the source material is horrible and racist be in charge of the game. That was basically what went down. And
Gotcha.
So that was in the Modifius having the rights to.
That's too bad because I had a really good relationship with Chris and his wife from Modifius over the years, and It's the UK, so I can't be even a little surprised, but I am.
Now, in other news, I already told you that what's his name, Mark Miller from Traveler,
Yeah.
has turned over full rights to all the games that Game Designer Workshop made to Mongoose. So
Yeah, that's too bad. That's too
Mongoose
bad.
basically owns all the GDW games, and they're
So
talking
stock up
about
on everything
coming out
pre
with
that era. Gotcha.
yeah, they're talking about coming out with a dark conspiracy book.
And that'll be woke as frick.
It might be, but the one game they said they're not going to be messing with at all is Twilight 2000,
Hmm.
because Free League makes the new Twilight 2000, and they say that they're doing such a good job with it that they have no desire to, you know, get involved in any bullshit with that. And then the other thing, which you may or may not give a shit about, is War Games Atlantic is working on Traveler 2300 miniatures,
Yeah, I saw something about that.
multiple
I
sets.
still have yet to read my copy of 2300. Where is it? Is it here?
Other
Yeah.
than the changes to vehicles and stuff, it's just Traveler. It uses you use the Traveler core book, but you
I
use.
thought it was a percentile system.
Are you talking about old 2300, or are you talking about
Yeah,
the modern?
I'm talking about the original.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm talking about the modern one.
Oh, okay.
It uses the exact same rules as Traveler.
That's probably a good idea because uh,
The only difference is there's no artificial gravity. Las guns are rare. Most people are running around with AK 99s or
yeah.
whatever. And Earth is still balkanized. And the colonies are split between whichever nation states made them. So you have like the American arm, and there's 9 colonies there, and the French arm, and the Manchurian arm, and etc. So like one of the American colonies is Titan, and if you choose to come from Titan, you have to also choose to have the Titan what they call DNAM, which is DNA modification, and your character is basically a dwarf.
Okay.
He's like 4 foot tall and like 300 pounds. And it's because the gravity on Titan is like 1.5 or 1.7 Earth standard. Yeah. So a normal, not modified human can't live there. You could barely spend short periods of time on the planet before
your spine would crush.
So the genetic mutation to make the king mutants makes them super small and dense and enlarges their heart and all this sort of shit. So the gravity's fine for them. The negative, though, is it reduces their lifespan down to 70 years instead of, like 140.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you can choose to do that. It's a human mining colony. And there's another DNAM that can make your character amphibious. Like literally, you get a second set of eyelids. You get a second set of eyelids, and you get webbed feet and hands and gills. So because there's some ocean world, and because they have these two paths. In 2300, new 2300, they have the 2 paths, the soft path and the hard path, right? The hard path says we will terraform every planet we get to make it like Earth. The soft path says we will modify ourselves to fit in with our new world.
Gotcha. And
that's kind of a philosophical debate that's constantly going on amongst the different worlds, So America went with the soft path on Titan because there's no option. There's no way to terraform Titan to make gravity less.
Yeah.
But
Good luck with that.
yeah, but in other situations, they've went with the soft path, the United States, which is a tier 2 country. There's only one tier 1 country, and that's France. And also, France is currently in the middle of a war with the Kafir, but they have no idea where the Kafir come from. They just show up and wipe out shit and leave, you know. So the French are hiring mercenaries and stuff. And the biggest battles are on Aurora, which is a weird world because of the way the tides work on Aurora. Like every now and then a tsunami washes over like most of the planet, and then it withdraws back to the ocean. It has a weird gravity thing going on. So, but anyway, other than the price, 2300, the new one, I give 2 thumbs up. But
What's wrong with the price? Super
the box
spendy?
set is like $100.
Oh, yeah, that's a hard sell.
Now, the good thing is if you buy it straight from Modiphius or from Mongoose, you can get a bundle and they throw in the PDFs, the PDF for the core rule book, and all kinds of other shit. But it's still a lot of money.
Yeah, that GM has got to really, you know.
But I did it because I love 2300.
You got a group to play it?
Maybe. But anyway, a lot of the players at my table prefer Star Frontiers to Traveler.
Okay.
Rules wise, they like the, you know, percent, half my decks plus 20% because I'm level 2 with a las gun. If I roll under that, I hit. I mean, you know. But, you know, Traveler is the same thing, except you got beat an 8 with 2 dice 6, basically. If you can beat an 8, you probably did it. Anyway, though, I'm getting out here. I'll